Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Yeah, baby! We got a show for you tonight because we got press conferences, we got audio from radio shows, we're going to talk about Winning Time, the Lakers show, and we're going to talk later with Johnny Santucci, who is on the controls for the Barlow Network here on YouTube. And we've got this man here. His name is Dan Aguirre. Dan, how are you, my friend?
My mic was off. I'm finally getting better. It's good to be here. And the interesting takeaway I had from the press conferences today, it seemed to be that they needed Fields' the left side of his scrotum leaning forward in the shotgun, right? And not his right side.
Yeah, that seemed to be the headline. Apparently, he's a lefty, left wing. He's got to get that left foot going. I don't know what it meant politically, but
could you imagine trying to play, even if it was just like, Sandlot, and I'm right-handed. I think you are too, right?
I am lefty, baby.
Oh, you're lefty.
That's
okay.
right. I'm Kenny Snake Stabler.
well, so if you're lefty, would it be easier for you to, if you're in a gun, to have your right foot first?
No,
or your left?
Left, definitely left.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. Is where I'm right-handed, I would be like Fields and want to have my right foot first. Even though if you're boxing, it would be the other way. But still, I think that would be hard for me. Of course, he's a superior athlete, and I'm just a fucking guy. But to have my left foot first would fuck with me, I think.
Yeah, I have to look at tape and talk to Greg Gabriel and other people about it because it does seem kind of bizarre to me. Cliff Victoria says, which way does he dress to the left? I don't know. I don't know about that, but yeah, I'll have to do some digging on that because the mechanics of that are strange. And then in that press conference, which we will have plenty of clips from, he does say that that's the way. It's interesting. He says that's the way they run their offense. He still hasn't gotten used to saying that's the way we run our offense. And I
was still impressed by him, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's interesting because he does have authority and a certain presence about him at these press conferences. I wish, though, there was some questions that he would answer a little bit more at length. Like there was a question posed about, you had down in Florida, who did you train with, and how has that helped? Well, he answered the question about who, and then only, we were getting our timing, but there has to be more to that. There has to be more to the how on that. And I think, I wish that as he gets more comfortable in this role of being the team leader and having to do so many press conferences, that he can offer us a little bit more insight into his preparation and stuff. But maybe he never will, and that won't bother me as long as he wins for the Chicago Bears.
I thought that the answer was a little. I hope that there was more people besides Cole and Mooney, though.
Yeah,
because that's all he answered.
Yes.
I hope that there was more people there.
I know that was a little disappointing. I was hoping, that he would say, well, who else is on the wide receiver? Byron Pringle. I wish he would have been the guy they picked up from the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I foresee, well, I shouldn't say this. My expectations for the Fields to Pringle connection to be minimum 65 receptions and at least 5 touchdowns, anywhere between 5 and 9 touchdowns between those two guys. I really like Pringle a lot. I think that's an understated signing. I don't think enough people are as excited about that as I hope them to be, and I hope comes into fruition with their results.
If I were St. Brown, I would have gone too. You think about it, you got paid like $700,000, which to me or you is a lot of money, but in the NFL world, it isn't. And I think from his perspective, he didn't get enough playing time in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what he and his agent would tell you. So, man, jump on this opportunity then and be working out with our quarterback, and maybe you'll get on the field and earn the big ass contract. So I was hoping that he would have gone too.
Yeah. Did you see the interview on video?
Yes, I watched Coach and I watched Fields. Both I watched both of the pressers today.
Yeah, and it's interesting because who was that who just put up? It appears that from his face that Fields' appearance that he's still upset with Matt Nagy
but he was smooth about it though.
Yes,
when they asked him,
very very professional about it, but I think it's pretty easy to see that he was like, yeah, those guys are idiots.
I honestly, I can't tell you that. I know it's like a broken record, and I know maybe I'm coming across as phony, but I'm telling you, I've got hope. And when I hear this, I know Matt Eberflus doesn't have the name that you would want. Like, he's not like, oh man, we're bringing in, X or somebody that's won a Super Bowl before. It's like Bill Parcells, he doesn't command respect based upon his name, but listening to him talk, maybe it's just me, but he seems so much more confident in his own abilities. He's not over the top with bravado and trying to convince you that he thinks he's the best coach, and he's not trying to outsmart anybody. He seems so much better just by listening to him talk than Matt Nagy.
Oh my gosh, you're so right about that. The factor says that the factor said that he was surprised at how upset Fields seems about Nagy last year. And he goes on to add that Pringle was there. He came out in the video today. So apparently there's some video where Pringle is with Fields down in Florida working out. And that's really, really good news. I'm surprised though that Justin, I want it more. Yeah, we've been getting together, 6 days a week or whatever it is. And we've been working on this and we've been working on that. And I really like what Pringle brings to the game. And Darnell and I are really establishing a great rapport. I wanted some of that, but Nomad says that he thinks that Justin is intentionally vague. I don't know why he would be, though. I think it's just part of his personality that he's not effusive when he talks about things. He's not, he doesn't pontificate like I'm doing right now.
He says, of course, a lot.
Yeah, he does. He does.
I bet you he said he spoke like 12 minutes today.
Yes.
And I bet you he said, of course, at least 15 times.
Yeah, that seems to be what he starts off his responses with, of course. Like, and a lot of people say, I mean, which is kind of weird to start your responses by saying, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's like, yeah, you could say, I mean, maybe at the end when you're recapping. But anyway, it was good to see him at the press conference. It was good to see Eberflus at
He
the
had a
press.
smooth white hat on too. I like the
Yeah.
white with the B.
Ooh, see, that's one of the many qualities, Dan, that I like about you is that you pick up on stuff like that. You know, your dress fashion is all about Chicago Bears. You could probably describe not only uniforms but stuff that is sold at the Bears shop, you know, with great detail because you really keep an eye on that stuff, don't you?
Yeah, and the hat with just the B sort of made its comeback with Lovey
Yeah.
when
Oh,
Lovey
that's
was
right.
here, but it was the blue one, you know, and so I've got the blue one. I ended up buying an orange one somewhere along the time that Fox was here, but I hadn't really noticed the white one before.
Yeah.
And he had a white jacket on with it too. It was a smooth look, man. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it looked good on him. I don't know if I can pull that off, but Dan, you definitely could, man.
White hats, they'll only have one of them. They're just, you almost don't want to wear them because you know, you sweat for 5 minutes, you stain the hat.
Yeah, that is a problem. It's something for the shelf. I got a barroom hat that's white. I only wear it on special occasions when I know I'm not gonna scuff it up with a dirty hand or sweat or anything like that.
If you're in a dome, if you were going to see the Bears in Detroit,
yeah, are you planning?
You know, where it's going to be 70 degrees, you know?
Are you planning on seeing any games this season?
Well, you know, I'm so disappointed about the schedule. Like every other year, in old school days, it came out like April 2nd. But in the last decade plus, it's come out the Thursday before the first day of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was going to drop this Thursday. But according to Mike Florio, who I know Greg hates and blah, 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 according to Florio, they're not going to drop it till May 12th.
May fucking 12th?
Yeah, so I still like it's so disappointing to not be able to line up any kind of long-term plans versus money and, you know, flights and all these things you got to you contemplate. Like I really wish they would drop it this week.
Yeah.
So, but in theory, yeah, I'm intrigued, and I definitely wouldn't mind seeing the Lovey game with the Texans in town, depending on when it is, you know?
Right. And they've got the 2 games in New York against Jets and Giants. So I'd love to get out there for one of those. Tooch is asking, isn't Florio like Dan a West Virginia guy?
He is. He went to West Virginia University and got his. He's an attorney. He got his degree there. I don't know where he came from first. Maybe he was from here, but I know that he graduated from here and he lived here for a certain period of time. He ran that website, profootballtalk.com, in 2002, and was always on the West Virginia Mountaineer radio plugging the website before he eventually, obviously, got picked up at NBC Sports.
Somebody's just asked me what I'm sipping on. It's Driftless Glen, which I picked up at Benny's for the first time probably a year ago, and I love it. It's a straight bourbon whiskey, single barrel. It's made up in Wisconsin, I believe. So that's the only bad thing about it. Yeah, it's made up in handcrafted in Baraboo, Wisconsin. You can pick it up at Benny's. I really love that. That is probably my favorite of all reasonably priced whiskeys. And when I mean reasonably priced, I'm talking about $40. So that's not exactly cheap, but it's a good whiskey.
Before we get started, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I don't know if you saw this or not, but there was a video where a high school kid intercepted Aaron Rodgers, and then Rodgers got pissed and threw at the kid's feet after that. Did you see that?
I saw that, but go ahead and then I want to retort on that. Go ahead.
What a fucking dick he is. That's what I wanted to say. God, I just hate Aaron Rodgers.
See,
I hate him.
He did it fucking around though, Dan. I think that was taken out of context. From what I read is that there were laughs about it and so forth. He just did it fucking around. And so it automatically, paints him out to be the bad guy. Now, I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I agree with anyone and everyone that says he's a dick. But in that context, that video, I don't think he did anything wrong. He was just playing, the fact that he's out there playing around with kids is something to his credit. And the fact that he was, fooling around with the kid that intercepted his pass and threw it at his feet. It's not like he threw it at his face like Peyton Manning did in that Saturday Night Live sketch. You remember that?
Yeah, of course.
That was classic, man. So I don't, Nomad is telling me to try red breast. I'll try any breast.
Yeah, same.
I don't care the size, the shape. I'll try it.
That's me, man. I like a good A cup, but I also like like goddamn, like what is this? The double G, whatever,
Yeah.
like I like anything in between, man. I like them all.
Yeah, Dan and I don't normally exchange photographs via text of porn stars, but I sent him one of a porn star from the 70s named Sue Nero. She was the porn star that made me go, oh my God, I want to be a porn star just to make love to her. And I actually, on my way to school, I think I was going to college at the time. I'm walking by the Oak Theater on Western Avenue, and I look at the marquee. The Oak Theater used to be a neighborhood movie theater that, as a kid, I would go watch, James Bond movies and blah blah blah. But it turned into a porno movie theater in the late 70s, I want to say. And so I'm walking by, and there on the marquee is live Sue Nero. And I'm like, holy shit, this is the woman I've seen in a porno magazine. I ditched school and went in there and saw her show and got to talk to her afterwards. And so she always has a special place in my heart. So I send this.
Did you beat off in the theater?
No, I did not. I did not. I have gone to in my lifetime probably a half dozen times to a porn theater. I've never taken my wiener out and masturbated. Although,
man, what's the point?
Yeah, I know. You take the memory back home, and that's where you do it legally. Although at one theater, the Cine Stage Theater in downtown Chicago, was a porn theater. I went in there, and a prostitute comes over and sits by me, and she starts rubbing my leg. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, should I give her $20 so she can jerk me off while I'm watching that?
Yes.
I did not. I did not. Darn it. I still regret it to this day. But in any case, so I send the photo of Sue Nero to Dan, and Dan gave it a big, huge boner up, should I say?
She was finer than a motherfucker. I'll give you that.
Tooch says, if Ron Jeremy, also known as the Hedgehog, can be a porn star, damn it, so can Aldo.
He's in trouble with, he could go to prison or something now, right?
Yes, he's in big ass trouble. No man saying Aldo is in there with dark glasses and a trench coat. Who was it? The Pee Wee Herman, right?
Paul Rubens.
Rubens. He was caught in the.
Remember, he had a children's show at the time, and it got canceled. Like, he really suffered from that.
Yeah, it really was damaging to his career. He had a very popular Saturday morning. I forgot what.
With Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne was in that. That's right. Holy shit. That's funny. And then Morgan Freeman, he was on Sesame Street. That is wild, man.
It was called Pee-wee's Playhouse. Which sounds so dirty.
It really does. Stephen Me is absolutely correct. He says, Aldo goes to the porn theaters for the art, not to beat off.
Do you remember? Like, he started out in Cheech and Chong. He was doing Pee Wee Herman there in rated R form.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you go back and watch like Cheech and Chong's next movie.
Okay.
He's playing Pee Wee on stage as a comedian in that, and they're heckling him.
Oh, wow.
He's in Nice Dreams too, but in Nice Dreams he's just playing a regular, cokehead. Just a regular junkie. But in Nice Dreams, he works at a hotel / he's a Pee Wee as a comedian.
Tooch says Phil Hartman was also on Pee Wee's Big Playhouse. I did not know that either. Holy cow.
Yeah, he ended up being murdered by his fucking wife.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Did you see a few years ago, Andy Dick and Lovitz almost got into a big fight because somehow Andy Dick made a joke about it, but Lovitz tried to attack him and was like, "You're the reason this happened. You got his wife on drugs again, you piece of shit."
Oh, I didn't know the details of that fight. That's what happened.
Yeah, John Lovitz was blaming Andy Dick for the reason that Phil Hartman's wife got strung out and killed him, and he was making jokes about it because Lovitz was going to go to jail and didn't give a fuck.
Wow. Now, Lovitz wasn't making jokes about it, right? It was
Andy Dick was, and Lovitz blamed Andy Dick for Phil Hartman's wife even getting back on drugs.
Well, that's in bad taste on Andy Dick's part to making jokes if he had, some indirect
Yeah. So
responsibility.
Lovitz was going to fuck him up, man.
Wow. I'd love to see a fight between Andy Dick and John Lovitz, man. That would be great.
Lovitz is like his whole demeanor so like he's always like the white guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like his comedy. But I mean, he's a pretty big guy, you know.
Oh,
You'd like to
yeah.
think he'd fuck Andy Dick up.
Yeah, I think so. But just the anger of both of them. Andy Dick strikes me as the guy who could, get really bitchy and start flailing away. And then John Lovitz, with a little bit more boxing style, would knock him out in the middle of the second round. There's my prediction.
To me, Andy Dick would taunt you to you punched him, and then he'd say, "I'm calling my attorney, you asshole."
That's right.
I'm pressing charges.
Oh man. All right. How about that for 20 some minutes of
Feels like we just got here.
Yeah, right. We could talk more about this shit, but why don't we talk a little bit more about football? And then when Tooch comes in, I want to get some of his thoughts on what we just talked about, because he seems to be a encyclopedia of Pee-wee's Big House Adventure and some of this other stuff. All right, so I'm so excited. I mean, it's draft week coming up next week, but this is part of draft week for me, because there's just so much anticipation. It starts now. We have been talking about it for weeks, but really now it's we can see that light coming. This is going to be the biggest part of the off season for Ryan Poles. This is where he makes his major acquisitions. He wants to build this team through the draft. Then I got a question for you. Would you be upset if Ryan Poles started to do some of the things that Ryan Pace did, which is trade up in the draft for players that he really, really wants on this Bears team?
Man, we have to trust him. I know he's new and he probably hasn't earned our trust, but be that as it may, we're fans, and the guy's putting his name on all the acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
It's his first draft. He's already had the fuck up in the offseason with the nose tackle. So it's like we just have to trust him, regardless of what the move is. We have to be happy about it and hope for the best, in my opinion. I know a lot of people want to criticize the McCaskies and the organization and talk about switching teams, but if you're a Bears fan, we're in it, man. So this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he does, if he trades up, he trades back. I gotta just say we hope he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, I'm with you in that I want to trust him. But that was such an egregious error that Ryan Pace did year after year after year, that if he started his draft history with the Chicago Bears and did that, I would withhold opinion, but my immediate reaction would be one of disappointment. And then I would withhold opinion, because if he moved up to draft Chris Olave, the Ohio State wide receiver who Justin Fields talked about at today's press conference, and those guys are like, ham and eggs. Those guys are just so good together. There's nothing more, I wish this question would have been asked at today's press conference. What would you think if Chris Olave somehow became a Chicago Bear? I would have loved to have seen the excitement on Justin Fields' face. I mean, he loves the guy. He calls him one of the best deep ball trackers that he's ever played with and that he's ever seen. They have this connection. The Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams connection was something that the Packers won't have next season. And even if they draft two wide receivers in round one, that connection is going to take years to develop with whoever. Even if they draft Olave, it's going to take years. Right now, if the Bears were to get Chris Olave, that connection would be halfway there. The other half has to be, against pro personnel. But what they did in college was so impressive that it would be really, really outstanding if the Bears somehow could steal Chris Olave. I made the joke that what they should do is kidnap Chris Olave before the draft and then force him to change his name and then just sign him as a free agent. Say, hey, we signed a free agent named Joe Smith and we're giving him $10 million contract. Hey, wait a minute. That's Joe Smith. Looks exactly like Chris Olave. No, we have no knowledge of that.
Now, is he projected to be a top 10 or a top 5? Like, where's he supposed to go?
I think most draft mocks, I see him in the top 20. So
that's doable then. If he's around 18, 20, that seems like that's a trade you could make.
Mm-hmm.
If he's in the top 10, then I think we'd have to give up too much capital.
Yeah, I totally agree that there's just no way you can trade anyone that is going to go in the top 10. I mean,
unless you throw Robert Quinn in.
Ooh, there you're talking.
If you throw Robert Quinn in and like maybe one of those 2 seconds to move up to grab that wide receiver, then I'm on board.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, if there's a team that is on the cusp of winning a Super Bowl and they could really benefit from a pass rusher like Quinn and maybe even another player like they have their eyes.
Like a shitty safety named Eddie Jackson who skipped camp.
That's right. How could he do that? How the fuck could he do that? Eddie Jackson.
My God. And make the coach have to defend him for it too. It's just.
Yeah. And he handled that really well. We'll listen to that part of it in the clips that I have. He handled that really good, kind of saying, yeah, there's a bunch of guys that, are dealing with stuff and blah, blah, blah. But, Eddie Jackson, to me, he has so much to prove to the organization, to Chicago Bears fans, for him not to be there today. I mean, even if you just show your face and say, hey, I can't stick around for practice, I got to go take care of whatever it is, whatever excuse he has, but it just doesn't make sense.
I think he was just counting his money.
Yeah, that's probably it.
I think he was counting his fucking money. He doesn't care about anything else but.
Yeah. Nagishi says, I still think you have to give a 2023 first round pick to move up. And that is the thing. Now, I was thinking about this a little before the show. If Olave falls to, past 21, 22, 23, there is a chance that a team might take your 2 second rounders. And then you have Chris Olave, 2 second rounders and your second rounder next year, 3 second rounders. That's a possibility. That's a lot of draft capital.
Or a guy that had 18 and a half sacks.
That's right.
Robert Quinn. And I'd like to see Quinn back, but I mean, that's obviously something you can dangle there. The impact that he can make on your team immediately.
Yeah. Tony Moy, can you put that one back up, Tooch? Tony Moy said something about Kansas City having multiple draft picks. Yeah, KC has 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, because they fleeced the Dolphins.
Oh, my gosh, did they ever. Trade Quinn and a second-round pick for Olave if he drops. I would love that, but I'll tell you what, I think KC would jump all over Chris Olave. It might take a lot more. I mean, this guy is just so intriguing. For any team that loves to throw the ball and loves to throw it deep, they have Chris Olave up high. And Christian Watson is another guy. We're going to listen to a little bit of Dane Brugler from his interview with 670 The Score and Dan Bernstein, and he mocked Chris Watson to the Chicago Bears with the 39th overall pick. I don't think Chris Watson's going to be there. I think Chris Watson is either a late first rounder or an early second rounder. If he drops to number 39 to the Bears, then that's going to be tremendous. Dan, I know you probably don't know anything about the North Dakota State University wide receiver.
Nope.
But he's 6'4". He runs like a 4.4, and he never played against great competition in college, but he has all those athletic traits that tell you he's going to.
So did Adam Shaheen.
No, the college that Adam Shaheen played, I think they played against teams like my old high school football team, a bunch of little Puerto Ricans running around and trying to tackle this 6'6" tight end. I think there's a big difference there. North Dakota State University is where Carson Wentz went. There was a big player. The second overall pick last year. Who the 49ers drafted the quarterback. What's his name? I'm drawing.
Trey Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. Thank you. See that? You don't follow college football and you still nailed it. Stephen Me asked a question. Stephen Me, get me back, Stephen Me. Are we saying we should go to the New York Jets route, trade everyone, and try and build from scratch with a quarterback they hope can survive for a year or two of mediocrity and build a team up with youth? Stephen, that's a great, great fucking question. I don't know. I don't know what is the absolute best way of building this team around Justin Fields. My feeling is that first and foremost, you got to get protection for him, right, Dan? You got to get an offensive line.
I agree. And to answer his question, my opinion, they're going to try to win as many games as possible with the least amount of talent this season. And the salary cap is so much more conducive to signing great players next year that I think if Fields shows that, okay, he's worth all the hype we've thrown his way and he's our guy, then I think they'll load up next year because he's still got 2 more years left on his rookie deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then
at that point,
right, and then there's the 5th-year option.
Sure.
I think
but I think they'll try to win it while he's in that rookie deal, like the Seahawks did, if they think that he's the guy, and hopefully they will, because I want him to be.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do feel like I don't want them to rush the rebuild, and I'm not quite sure what that means, other than I don't want them to trade away multiple draft picks for 1 or 2 players. I think this team is in need of so many players that the only way to do it is with really, really smart drafting and some really astute free agent signings. But the first and foremost is the draft. And so that's why I'm really, really reluctant to trade draft assets. But for Olave, I asked Greg Gabriel this question: are there players on the board? Every NFL team has their big board, top 100, top 200, whatever it is. Are there any players? It was actually a chat room question, I think, from Nomad. Are there any players that have a little star by them that teams say this is a must get because this guy, it would be a perfect fit for our team, like a Chris Olave? He would be a perfect fit for our team because of his speed, because his catching ability, because he's got a rapport with our quarterback, and so Greg said sort of, maybe, but I'm telling you this: if I have my big board, I would have a star next to Chris Olave's name, and I would try to figure out a way to make it happen without having to sell the farm. So that's how I feel about that particular player. Mr. Dan Aguirre, are you ready to listen to some audio?
Absolutely.
All right, let's start with Matt Eberflus. I actually trimmed down the interview a bit. It was about 13 minutes or so, but I got it down to about 10 minutes. And at any point, Dan, if you want to stop the interview and comment on what he has, just speak up.
I just want to comment before you start.
Mm-hmm.
There was the question that was something along the lines of, how do you as a new coach get your players to buy into you? How do you establish credibility?
That's great. Yeah, I remember that question.
Thank God he didn't say be you. He said be yourself, but he didn't say be you.
Yeah.
If he'd have said be you, I'd have been really, really, I would have been stunned.
There's so much coach speak that you can't sometimes avoid some of this stuff, but be you is one that he should definitely avoid, and he should find some synonyms for collaboration, because we don't want to hear those words anymore from a press conference, at least for a year or two, please, Lord.
The be you thing, man, fuck. Be you somewhere else, because you should not be here.
Yeah. I'm still holding to my prediction that Patrick Mahomes is going to see a downturn in his play this season, and maybe not even make the postseason. And all of us here in Chicago will know why.
It's going to be because of Matt Nagy.
No, don't call him that anymore. What's your name for him?
The bald fuck.
I love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is Matt Eberflus.
Week. This is our first time on the grass. We started out today with a walkthrough which is about 30 minutes. It was 10 minutes of special teams, 20 minutes for the walkthrough. That was really good. And really just introducing our day one concepts, day one run action passes, play action pass, the drop back pass, the empty game, and then defensively our fronts and coverages. That's what we've been doing. Started with our punt team today and protection. That was really good too. So then we got on to practice. And the biggest thing, the message with those guys is we're going against each other to be safe, right, to finish. And my main message this morning was this. I said, hey guys, football comes down to the simplest form of execution. And what is that? And that's alignment, assignment, key, and technique. And everybody has that. So when you get to play offense, defense, or kicking, when you get to play from the huddle, man, let's get lined up, right? Let's align, assign, key, and technique, and let's execute. And everybody finish. That was my last message, is to finish the right way. So we'll be looking at tape on the technique, on the fundamentals, execution, and the finish of the practice today.
Coach, Eddie Jackson figures to be an important part of what you want to do here. Any concern that he wasn't here today?
No concern. No concern. And really it's just like, I know you might have questions about this player, that player, or, guys, you're out there and you saw guys that were in or out. That's part of this time of the year. Guys have things that go on personally. They have things that go on, they're working on a part of their body, whatever. Maybe they had an injury from the last season and maybe they're somewhere working on that. Everybody's got their own story. So, and that's not a big issue. Everybody's done a great job of communicating with us, and they'll be here when they're here, and when they're here, they're going to get good work.
Matt, how receptive have they been to your philosophy and your message to them as they're getting to know you during this time too?
Yeah, it's been a short time, but I feel that it's been real receptive by the whole team. And, what we're teaching and what we're telling them is that it's winning football. It's the rudiments of the game. It's about blocking and tackling. It's about doing the simple things better than anybody else does. And they've been good.
How can you tell that, though, Matt? What indicates that to you, that this is clicking and that guys are receiving this well?
Yeah, I would just say today is a great example. There was a great execution out there for the first day. A lot of times you'll see other things that don't show that, like snaps that are dropped and guys jumping off sides and defensively guys missing their assignments. I saw really good execution today, and that's a tribute to them paying attention to what we're trying to do, offense, defense, and kicking.
Matt, what do you want to see from Justin Fields this week?
He's just soaking it in and learning and taking command of the offense. And that's what he's doing. He's done a great job with that so far. I thought he did an excellent job today. He really did. He was in command of the offense, really every play that I saw, and there's certainly when you're working with 11 guys, there was a mistake here and there by this person or that person, but man, he had really good command today.
What are you noticing about the way he's kind of adapting to learning a new playbook and working with Luke?
Yeah, just I've noticed just his confidence. He's got really good confidence in the room. When I'm in the quarterback room, when I'm in the offensive room, calling out the plays, executing, and then what the adjustments are if we may have that for that particular play. But confidence, I would say.
With Luke Getsy, how do you describe him as a teacher and as a communicator?
Yeah, so he's. I would say he's very methodical with his teaching. He's been in this system a long time, and he knows the ins and outs of it in terms of what's the next step, and he knows also the foundation of it. And I would say that he's really good at teaching that foundation because all your concepts come off of the foundation. You might have this concept, but man, it's real similar to this concept, and you can also teach it the same. And sameness and likeness is really good for a player on any side of the ball.
I know it's just day one. You get Borum on the left side and Jenkins on the right. That's flips from last year. What's the thought process of Luke or whoever that made that decision as far as having those guys at those spots?
Yeah, and we're looking at a lot of things right now. So you might see guys in a lot of different spots. A guy could be playing X receiver or Z receiver or U tight end, Y tight end, left defensive end, right defensive end. We're going to play with a lot of different combinations right now because we're just trying to figure out what guys do and what they do the best. So, you could see those guys flip, during OTAs, they could flip sides, so we're just looking to see exactly what guys do best.
When you try to figure that out, what types of things are you looking at? I'm sure some of it's a little bit of a projection. Are you going back to college tape? Are you looking at the limited tape last year? What are you looking at?
Everything. Yeah, we're looking at everything. We want to make sure that we look at all the information and then make a good decision. And this is a work in progress. We're going to work this all the way through to the first game. So we're going to try different combinations in there on both sides of the ball.
So that could be fluid until actually week 1 of the regular season?
It depends on how long it takes to make the decision. Yes, it could be. I think you got to be flexible with that, and then see what guys can do, and then push boundaries. I think you want to push boundaries with players and say, okay, we're going to push you to this point or put you in a new spot to push you in a different way to see if you can do it. And then, yes, you can do it. Or, hey, it's a little bit of a struggle. Hey, keep working at it, and keep coaching him, and then he might get it, at whatever position. So I think you got to push him that way and challenge him.
I know you've said before with Justin this year, it's about getting the ball out of his hands quickly. When you can't simulate like live drills and pass rush at this point of the offseason, how do you go about having him hone that skill?
Yeah, I think it's about footwork and then the timing. Footwork and timing. There should be a clock, on every single drop that he takes. There's the drop, the number of steps, and then there's a hitch or there's a second hitch. And that ball's got to be out of his hands on the first one or the second one, based on the coverage and based on the call.
Are you able to sense leadership qualities in Justin? And if so, in what ways do you see that?
Yeah, I really do. I want to see leadership qualities with everybody, because I always say this, is that, everybody, when you're part of a group, everybody needs to lead, and everybody needs to pivot and follow at some point. You just do, and I think that coach, player, quarterback, head football coach, coordinator, you're going to have to listen to the people around you, right, because it's a team, and you're going to have to pivot. And when it's time to lead, you got to step up and lead and get the direction going there. And I've seen that from him, and he's done a good job with that so far.
Coach, how do you go about earning credibility with the players yourself? Coming in at this point in the year, how do you view that?
I would just say, just be myself. Just be myself. I think it's if you try to be somebody else and it's not honest and truthful, I think you lose credibility. I think when you're honest and truthful and upfront with guys, and you tell them exactly, and you put it on the table, so it's plain to see, and then you challenge them to get that done, they appreciate that and they respect that.
Matt, some coaches like to have a locker room set up where all the players are by position, and others in recent years have done the intermingling so players get to know each other, whatever. Which one do you prefer? Which will you have?
Well, I don't know about locker room setup. I think that's could be an important piece of it, but I do think that and I've said this before, is that we should not see offense and defense and kicking. We should see the Chicago Bears. So, I know one thing in the weight room we'll do is we have the offense and defensive line lift together. That's an important thing that we do. And then the skill guys lift together. Not just offensive skill, all skill lifts together. I think that's a way to get that camaraderie and build that unity within the group. But we don't want that. We want to be Chicago Bears. Offense, defense, and kicking, that doesn't matter.
Expect this week at all to help inform the draft process for next week and helping you get a better understanding of what you have, what you might not have?
Yeah, I think that's an ongoing process, to see exactly where we are. We'll have meetings all the way up to the draft, and certainly that'll be part of it. That'll be part of the discussion for sure.
Matt, in this early phase, how much do you have to coach your coaches to make sure that they're who you think they are, hope they are, and to make sure everybody's singing from the same hymn book, so to speak?
No, I think that's part of the job as a head coach, and a coordinator. The coordinators are responsible for coaching their side, and I'm responsible for coaching the coaches on all sides. And sometimes it might just be, hey, I saw in that drill where you can show them one thing, hey, this is how we finish. This is make sure that we finish all the way through, or a technique or a fundamental that you might want to adjust or show the coach. But I think that's the job of the head coach, is to coach the coaches.
Is there, in addition to the HITS program, though, a certain style that you want consistent through your coaching staff?
Absolutely. And I think I stated that a couple weeks ago, that I went down and met with every coach. Talked about the progression of each player and also how we're going to practice. And today was a good start. It was a really good start. We're excited about where it is, but it's got to get better.
Man, if Potsy can ask about the locker room, are you here?
I'm here.
Aldo?
Yes.
I want to be like, all right, Dan Aguirre, the Barroom Network. Sir, Coach Eberflus, we noticed that you're wearing that really, really nice white hat and that really nice white jacket. could this be a sign of that maybe the Bears in 2022 will wear, say, the white jersey with the white pants?
Oh, that's a great question.
Can we have the white jersey with the white pants again? Is that hat and that jacket an indication that that's going to happen?
That is nice. Yeah, he wouldn't know the answer to that question unless he himself really wanted that. But yeah,
who has outlawed the white pants with the white jersey? That's what we need to find out.
Especially with these so-called rush uniforms on Thursday, where it's all one color. That should be, if the Bears play on Thursday night, that should be it. White on white with the black helmet, and give me back that white C, baby. I love it.
That would be sweet, man.
That would be outstanding. Anything in that interview really stand out? There were 2 or 3 things that I want to talk about, but please go first.
You know, I like that they were asking him about the tackles and that they switched, and he's basically saying like, well, we're not telling you that that's the move. We're just trying to see what we have.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was as honest as he could have been. I don't think that was coach speak. He was like, man, we're just trying to figure this shit out.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I like the fact that he said that he wants to sit in, and sounds like with a certain amount of zeal that he wants to be the head coach and wants to listen to what's going on in offense and defense, special teams across the board, and isn't just going to be like, oh, I'm here making my plays like the previous fuck, you know? So everything about him, man. I mean, like, I know he's not electric in terms of name brand, like I said earlier, but just listening to him talk, just looking at him, he's so not Matt Nagy that again, my hopes are through the fucking roof.
Yeah. You know, that was one of the more impressive things that I noticed about that press conference, and really all of his press conferences, but particularly this one. The pace of the press conference was like normal. It wasn't ask a question and it's 5 minutes of Nagy, you know, as John Buffon would say, going through word soup and you know, not answering the question after 5 minutes of rambling on and so forth. He was being asked questions and he would fire away. There was at one point, I think I cut this point out, where he didn't know the answer to a question. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, so I cut it off in the interest of time. But that, you know, if Matt Nagy would have been asked a question that he didn't know, he would have pontificated for 3 or 4 minutes. And then maybe
because he would have thought made his dick small if he told you he didn't know something.
That's right.
He's so insecure that he's got to be so smart all the time, like to combat his insecurity.
Yeah, you're totally.
This guy
totally
seems
right.
like he's comfortable in his own skin.
Yes. That the question about, you know, what are you doing to try to prove yourself to players? I thought he handled that well. You know, this is about, you know, just getting shit done. People will recognize and appreciate who I am after
Could you imagine though if this were 1982 and they asked Mike Ditka that? He'd have been like, who? The players need to prove themselves to me. I'm the fucking coach, asshole.
That's exactly how you would have answered that question.
I know.
Regarding what you just mentioned about the tackles, you know, I do believe that based on what happened today and what Ryan Poles said earlier in one of his earlier press conferences, Tevin Jenkins is moving over to right tackle, and he is going to be the next right tackle for hopefully the next 10 years. I think that Poles saw that in tape leading up to the job and after being before one of his first press conferences. He saw that Jenkins primarily played right tackle in college and saw that he's a better fit for that position. And I agree. You know, I'm nervous about putting him at left tackle, given that he has rarely played there as a college football player. And then Larry Borum, it would be a miracle to me if he ends up being the starting left tackle. Now, he has looked pretty good in the few snaps that he's had there, but I do think that this team is looking for a left tackle, and that Larry Borum will perhaps be that swing tackle to back up Jenkins and whoever the new left tackle is. That's pure speculation on my part, but I think this is where this is headed. And
what if, let me ask you a question. I know we both want, like, as you sold me on the wide receiver, I'm sold, you know, let's get him. But what if I told you that there was no trade forward, there's no trade back, with the first pick, second round, Chicago Bears select a left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
What's your reaction?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine.
It sounds boring, but I think I'd be happy too.
Well, I'm from the old Jim Finks, before you were born and before 99% of the people in the chat room were born, Jim Finks made that 85 team. Unfortunately, he left before the Super Bowl, but his drafting of offensive linemen, and I'll never forget his words. It was on Channel 2 News, and he said, you build the team inside out. You build it at the line of scrimmage, offensive and defensive linemen. You want to protect the quarterback, open up holes for your running back, and on defense, you want to get the quarterback and you want to stop their running game. And that's always stayed with me, and I think it's true today. Now, even with the pass, the rule changes that help offensive linemen and so forth, I still think it's a viable formula. There are ways to get around a bad left tackle. Charles Leno Jr. was not a great left tackle. He was an average, but you get rid of the ball quickly, and Charles Leno's name is never going to be talked about unless, he has one of those catastrophic plays that he would have from time to time. You can get by not having great pass blocking tackles, but it limits the offense because you got to get rid of the ball quickly. So if they're drafting a left tackle that will now allow for that deep vertical passing game to thrive, which is something that Justin Fields does well. He's got a record of really being accurate with those deep passes, unlike Mitchell, then I'm all for that, Dan. Totally for that.
Depending on the way they view these OTAs, that could influence their draft as well,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it's why you have it the week before, is to see what do we have right now
mm-hmm.
and what do we need next week.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how Borum looked today, like he could have made his future or within this OTAs.
Mm-hmm.
If he comes out balling, and just looks good when they mix it up on the 7-on-7, 7-on-7 drills, I think, maybe that influences who they draft. But
mm-hmm.
I don't know. That report came out that they said, we at the time sort of scoffed at it. But there was a news story out there, whether credible or not, saying that Ryan Poles wasn't exactly thrilled with Mr. Borum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did not see that report, by the way, but I wouldn't be surprised. By the way, I want to just reply to Skeet Dogs saying, Aldo Jenkins played left tackle in college and he moved to right tackle due to the fact of an injury of another player. That was he was more comfortable playing left tackle. And you're absolutely right, Skeet Dog. He, give Jenkins a lot of credit. He was slated to play the left tackle position. He played, I think, a bit in his junior year. But and when an injury to the right tackle happened, the replacement player said, I'm much more comfortable on the left side. And Jenkins said, hey, I'll play right tackle. I'll do that for the team. And that was great that Jenkins did that, knowing that he was probably hurting his draft value a little bit because left tackles traditionally are paid more because it's traditionally the blind spot of the defense. Although I contend that that's no longer the case now because a lot of teams realize that the best blocker is put at the left tackle. So what do? They move their best pass rusher over to the right side. And, you see that with a lot of players. But nonetheless, your point is well taken, Skeet, that Jenkins did play left tackle. So there is familiarity with that. But I'm going by the word of a couple of people that I trust saying that he's just much better at the right tackle position. And Greg Gabriel is not one of those people. Greg believes that Jenkins can play the left tackle position and play it well. So it's just, a difference of opinion there. One other thing that I wanted to mention regarding what I was really impressed with Matt Eberflus, Dan, is when he talked about coaching the coaches, that is the way to do the head coaching job. You make sure that you've got your coaches playing, doing their job at 100% level, 100%, because that every year you have to rely on players making progress. getting a little bit better than they were last year, or maybe a lot better than they were last year. How does that happen? Well, a lot of that is with their own individual development. They're practicing, they're studying the playbook, their maturity level improves. But what's the other way? It's through great coaching. And so if Eberflus is getting the optimum out of his coaches, then there's a very good chance he's going to get the optimum out of his players. That to me sounded so great, unlike that bald-headed fuck guy who he didn't care about shit like that. He wanted to call the great play that people were saying, wow, that Matt Nagy, he sure knows how to call plays. He didn't care about that stuff. He didn't talk about it enough. There was no trust in him to do that. He just wanted to be the offensive coordinator, and I hope he does gets a chance to call plays for
so that he can be exposed again. I honestly think if we were Kansas City fans, we'd be on here saying all we need is to protect Mahomes, let him drop back and throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Nagy's going to come in trying to play fucking trick ball and stuff with these stupid misdirection and all this stuff. He's going to ruin that whole fucking team.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only is he going to ruin that team, but it could last for years. I mean, we might have heard the last of the Chiefs being a playoff contender, but we'll see. I'm not fucking worried about the Chiefs and Matt Nagy anymore.
Because they've got a lot of draft picks.
Yeah.
So
before I get to the Justin Fields audio, I want to bring in a gentleman who went on vacation, so he missed one show. It's acceptable, right? Dan, you don't have a problem with the guy going on vacation and missing a show, right?
No. Especially if, he was like on a boat somewhere, and taking a trip. It wasn't like he was just at the house and just said, fuck you guys, I'm watching a movie.
This guy was at Siesta Key. And when I watch the MTV show, Siesta Key, it's nothing but rich people in blondes with blue hairs with immaculate figures and guys walking around with money falling out of their swimming trunks and so forth. That's where he was. And then last week, he's got this fucking rare disease that I never fucking heard of. Did you ever hear that disease?
I think it was called erectile dysfunction, right? No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, let's find out from him. Johnny Santucci, how are you?
Hello. There I am. Don't get rid of Dan.
We'll find a place for Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I missed a couple shows, missed the Barflies. Had a vacation, went to beautiful Sarasota and Siesta Key. Boy, it's beautiful down there. Went to Harry Potter World too for one day. Took the girls. I went on a cruise, Aldo, dolphin sighting. It was dolphin, manatee, and Cliff Victorias. But we only saw dolphins and manatees. There was no Cliff Victoria sighting.
Itchy ball syndrome is what Mule says you probably had.
I had diverticulitis, which is like I probably because I've been doing keto and paleo and I've been eating too much nuts and seeds, and I must have gotten one in the lining of my digestive tract that got infected. But it was very painful. It was very painful.
You said you were kneeled over in pain because it was so painful.
Very painful. Had to be helped out of bed and helped out of the car by my wife, and hunched over like an old man. But it was it went away pretty quick with the about 3 days to go away with the antibiotics. So yeah.
Well, you look good and you sound good. And anything you want to talk about Eberflus based on what you heard from his press conference? What's your overall opinion on him? Has it gotten a little bit better than your initial impression?
Yeah, definitely. It's still too early to pass judgment, because Dan would probably remember better than I did how we were feeling. Chew your food. I probably wasn't chewing. Yeah. Dan could probably remember how we felt about Matt Nagy getting hired. We probably were so excited. So excited for Matt.
That's true, because we are all saying at least he's not an asshole and rude like John Fox.
Exactly.
How did that turn out? Yeah.
By the way, Neil says that he's old, that he had diverticulitis succulitis also.
Yeah.
Stay away from the spices for a while, Tooch.
It sucks. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
So you're feeling a little bit better about Eberflus, Tooch, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I tell you, I like what I hear more and more every day. It's meant to, it's still wait and see. I think Steve and me was in there saying, hey, let's not crown him yet. Right. Let's see what see how everything works. I mean, it's going to be rough. I mean, but like I said, the last time I was on the show, you were asking about the Bears free agents. Although I didn't hear any of these guys. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows a lot about any of these guys.
Well, yeah, there was no big name free agent signing, other than the guy who failed the physical, Joby. But yeah, it is a little concerning that this team is really headed towards a transition year. It's like when I listened to Dan Bernstein's interview with Dane Brugler, which I'll have a snippet of. Dan described it as this is going to be definitely a transition year for the Bears, and I think that's the absolute best way to put it. We cannot expect a playoff run with the roster as it's currently assembled, and even if you hit a home run or score a touchdown in this upcoming draft, you still have to temper expectations. What we need to see first and foremost is the quarterback. Dan has been saying it. I've been saying it. Tooch, I think you've been saying it. This quarterback has to make a major jump. So how does that happen? You give him some weapons and you give him some protection. Now, I agree with someone earlier, Stephen Mee said that today that he disagreed with me, saying that you need a better offensive line than just an average offensive line. I totally agree with that. I totally agree. But if you don't have a great offensive line, or if injuries have knocked out a couple of your starters, there's ways to scheme around that. But yeah, if you want to have a great offense, it starts with your offensive line. They've got to give the quarterback protection, because a great offense is typically going downfield for quick scores.
I don't want you to temper your expectations. The reason what I'm selling you, the reason why I think the Bears can be a surprise team. No, none of us know what the roster is going to look like. There's like 40 open slots before training camp. However, I'm telling you that for years, and a lot of people said this when we had Jay Cutler too, and I disagreed, that we need a quarterback. We need a quarterback. I think we have a franchise quarterback, which arguably we haven't had the majority of all of our lives, right? And we've got a better coach. Coaching matters. Coaching matters. We have better coaches and a quarterback. So for all these other years, we had above average players here, there, and maybe a couple of great players, but maybe not great coaching and definitely not great quarterback play. So maybe Fields and better coaching elevates the team, and I think it will.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you there.
Are you going to play the Justin Fields?
Yeah, I'm going to play Justin Fields, but I just want to just reply to what Dan said. Dan is absolutely right. I mean, it all really depends on Justin Fields, right? If he can make that huge leap where he is scoring touchdowns on 1 out of 3 touchdown drives, that's going to cover up a lot of warts. This is, the Aaron Rodgers Packers, they've had years where that team was bad, but Aaron Rodgers made them good. As much as I hate that motherfucker, and I've changed my opinion when he threw that ball at that kid's feet, Dan. He should have been arrested.
He should have been, yeah.
So I'm with him. Dude, what do you think? Do you think that Justin Fields can play to such a level that all of a sudden we see a winning record and a push for the playoffs?
I think it's possible. I don't think it's probable, though. I know someone in the chat room said over under for wins about 7.5. I gotta kind of agree with that.
That's said that.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I mean, Justin Fields is still learning the pro game. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think that the way this roster's going to be constructed this year, at least. Now, Dan made a very salient point that next year is a better year for free agents, and the Bears will be in a lot better position. So, I mean, like the general consensus, if you know, when I was doing chat in there, is that this year might be a little rough. You know, coming up. You know, I mean, I've been looking at some of these guys on the. That we've signed. Like I said, I don't know many of them. Byron Pringle, you know,
He's excellent. He really
he
is.
should be pretty good. Justin Jones should be pretty good.
Mhm.
And then, you know, they're signing more tight ends, Aldo. So it's like they're trying to catch up with the dozen that we had on before the season.
You're making my point for me though. The bald fuck is gone.
He's gone.
For the better offense,
That's the best
quarterback
point.
that I believe in. I don't know why the Bears can't win 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think they'll be more competent than last year. You know, with these players who are they'll be hungrier. You know, these guys that they signed, you know, they're all guys who are trying to prove themselves in this league, if you ask me, because nobody's heard of them. You know, you have the two tight ends they signed. They're guys that like once or twice a year they have really big games, like Ryan Griffin and James O'Shaughnessy, guys they signed in the past week or so at tight end. They pop up in fantasy, you know, where they've got like a 3 touchdown day or something. You know, it's like, but I mean, I'm not expecting much from the year. That's the main thing. And you know, they do have the field stretcher in Pringle and Equanimous St. Brown. It was at least we know we're only going to have one Equanimous on the team, right, Aldo? There won't be two.
If there are two, I will suck Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, it's like someone invented a new word. It's like, folks, we must divide up all of the assets equanimously.
That's good, dude.
See, I always think ignoramus when I hear his name.
Oh, I never associated that. Let's hope that
Let's hope
that's
he's
the
not
last
dumb.
time we hear that. Well, I know I've seen a lot of stories about the St. Brown family. You know, their dad is a world famous bodybuilder, and he raised these two kids to be athletes and to be superlative athletes. And
The one in Detroit looks good.
he looks really, really good. And Equanimous, you know, when he came out of Notre Dame, I don't think that anyone thought that he was going to be a spectacular wide receiver, but definitely have better numbers than he did with Green Bay playing with Aaron Rodgers. So it's a little weird. Maybe he'll get the love here. Clearly, you know, the Bears' new offensive coordinator thinks highly of him because he wouldn't be a Chicago Bear otherwise. So maybe he can unlock that potential. You know, and sometimes Aaron Rodgers just gets so locked in with Devontae Adams that he fails to find open receivers downfield. So,
especially in the postseason.
Yep. Well put, Dan. I get it, Dan. I say that because Dan, I've always said, you know, you can't argue that fucking Aaron Rodgers is great. And then Dan would respond by saying, well, in the postseason he isn't. And I would say, well, let me look at the numbers. And Dan was fucking right, man. Those numbers are not good.
You remember Reggie Jackson was Mr. October.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe Aaron Rodgers is taking that from him. Only difference is Reggie Jackson was Mr. October because of baseball playoffs.
Yeah. Man, I remember that series too. I'm sure Aldo does too. And then right after the series, they came out with a candy bar called the Reggie Bar. Man, it was freaking awesome. It was like chocolate, caramel, peanuts, and Rice Krispies. It was really good. I don't know if anyone, what's his name? Foster probably remembers that. Foster Covers probably remembers the Reggie Bar.
By the way, there is a huge grocery store chain here in the Chicago area called Mariano's, and they carried a cereal named after Eddie Jackson.
What?
God.
That was the worst.
What does it miss your teeth?
That's right. It's Olay flavored cereal based on his tackling technique.
I think this guy's gone after this year. I really do. I hope I'm completely wrong about him, and somehow, some way, he tells us all to suck his dick this year with his play. But man, this guy just seems like he is the poster boy for I got paid and I lost all my heart.
I think you're right. I think they realize we're kind of stuck with this guy. We're not getting trade offers, and we talked about him on the phone with other general managers. There's definitely not any interest, so we got to stick with him for another year because there is that potential out on his contract. After
Nobody wanted a free safety that doesn't tackle? I'm so surprised.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice. Okay, if you're going to forfeit tackling, at least get me 3, 4, 5, 6 interceptions, like you did.
It's like he hasn't had a pick in like 2 years either.
Yeah, that's the problem. He just is not playing effectively. Now, there is good news. After late in the season, when he kind of realized, this head coach is not coming back next year, I better start playing a little harder. He did play fairly well in those last 2 games, but he's got a lot to prove to this organization and to Bears fans. And frankly, so does Justin Fields. We all have a lot of high hopes for him, but this is a huge year for Justin Fields. He clearly has to make a leap, and whether you believe Mike Florio or not, and again, Mike Florio was speculating on the whole Justin Fields trading thing. I don't think he's got a source at Hallisall. I don't think he knows anything. And for those other media outlets and Bears Twitter to start speculating that Fields is going to be traded, that's just asinine. I mean, frankly, it's asinine. He's not going anywhere. Justin Fields is the quarterback for the 2022 season. Now, if he does not play well, then I would not be surprised. The Bears then will probably have a top 5, top 10 pick. I wouldn't be surprised they might be looking at a quarterback. But that's all pure speculation on this point. And my expectation is that Justin Fields is going to be a great quarterback and that Dan is going to feel better about the hundreds of dollars in jerseys and jackets that he's bought.
I've already got 3 Fields jerseys. And to your dismay, I had to fight to keep the one because of Cleveland.
That's right.
I'm wearing that hoodie right now, the starter one.
Are you?
Again, if I hadn't have fought, I honestly believe my jersey and my hoodie would have never been returned.
Yeah, somebody in Cleveland working in the valet service would have been wearing it right now.
They're wiping their ass, having their kids or their animals shit on it.
Listen, for people who don't know, Dan and I were in Cleveland, and he accidentally left behind his.
No. I didn't leave.
Okay.
I went to piss.
Please tell the story.
I went to piss, and I came back, and they said that the car was filled, with our stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's my fault for not double checking. Right. But the jersey and my sweatshirt or my hooded sweatshirt were left behind the counter.
Mm-hmm.
Because they refused to let us load the car. Like, we're fucking adults, but we couldn't load our own car. So then they said, well, it's been loaded for you or whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, let's go. And somewhere along Canton, I was like, you know what I didn't see? My fucking jersey and my hoodie. And Brandy was like, oh my God, I didn't either.
Oh God.
And then that's when I called you and you're like, God damn it, stop calling me. So
I'm driving. I'm getting these panicked phone calls. I'm like, well, what the fuck you want me to do? I'm driving.
Well, I didn't know if it all had to go through you because the reservation was in your name, like my begging and pleading to get the stuff mailed to me. So
yeah. Well, and fortunately, you fought for it and you got it, and so Justin Fields better appreciate that when we tell him the story someday.
Yep. Otherwise, we're going to make you wear a Brock Forsey jersey.
He's probably got one.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think Phil's the only one that bought that. He loved that guy, he said.
Another bad draft pick by Sabotage. Just kidding, Phil. All right. Let's play some Justin Fields, and then we can comment on it immediately afterwards. Here is Justin Fields at the April 19th press conference.
Doing the last few months as far as working with Luke and trying to get a handle on the offense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just, just getting with him and, going through the offense, of course, and
One big thing was, changing my drop. Last year in the gun, I had my right foot forward, so I've been working a lot with my left foot forward in the gun.
What does that do for you?
It just, their offense is just what they do in their offense. At times they're better with routes and stuff like that. So that's why we do it.
Anything other than that Luke is emphasizing this early phase with you that he really wants you to focus in on?
Right now, we're just trying to, just get the offense installed and just, get this thing kind of going. So just kind of building just day by day right now.
You look back at your rookie year, how would you describe it?
A lot of ups and downs, but I definitely learned a lot. So, thankful for all the experiences and, stuff we had to go through. And it's the stuff last year is just going to make me better. So, of course, I'm excited for year two.
Do you think you were always put in the best position to succeed last year?
I think I was always put in the best position to succeed. I don't know. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. You just have to, handle what you got and, try to make the best of it. So, yeah.
Justin, when you talk about how this year feels different this season, do you feel empowered and emboldened to run the show out there when you guys get out to practice, that this is now your team to run?
Yeah, of course. Last year was my rookie year, of course. My first year in the league. Didn't know if I was going to start or not. Didn't know if I was going to play. So my mindset right now is completely different than last year. And like I said before, I'm just excited to get started. What are your expectations of attendance for this voluntary camp from your teammates? And did you make any phone calls or texts to try and get guys here? Especially on the offensive side of the ball, we needed everybody we could get here. So, defense, of course, they have new plays going in too. So I think we have everybody on offense, which is good. And, I think maybe a few guys are missing on defense. But, I'm pretty confident they'll come back and get caught up. So, offensive side, we're looking pretty good, though.
This is kind of an open-ended question, but what do you know now that you didn't know a year from now when you got drafted about what it takes to be an NFL quarterback?
A lot. You can't even, there's not one place you can start, but I just, have a lot of, more knowledge now, and I'm, going through a whole season, you learn a lot of things, and, you start incorporating things in your routine to, make you a better football player, so I'm excited.
What did you learn about dealing with, you mentioned the ups and downs, what did you learn about dealing with the downs? Because in college, it didn't look like you had a whole lot of downs.
Yeah, you can't really do anything but, deal with it and keep fighting for another day and, keep working. If stuff doesn't go your way, you got to just fail till you get your way to the top. I saw a video the other day, just, failing till you succeed. So no matter how many times I fail, I'm just going to keep going until I eventually succeed. So.
Ryan Poles had mentioned, Justin, that you were down in Atlanta working with some of your guys this offseason, some throwing sessions, because he noticed that the continuity with you and your receivers last year was one of the things he wanted you to work on. Who have you been working with down there, and how have you been able to build some of that continuity?
Moon and Cole came down there for a week or two, so we just, got together down there, worked out a little bit, and threw some routes. So.
What were your impressions of some of the guys that were added to the offense, and how can they make this offense different for you in year two?
Of course, we got a lot of new guys, and they're very talented, so I'm excited to, just see what they can do on the field and, just bring their skill set to our offense, so I'm excited.
Justin, there's a sense that next week they'll probably try to add a few new guys to your side of the ball in the draft. Have you just out of intrigue looked at this receiver class that's coming out just for your own personal interest?
Oh, yeah, of course. There's a lot of guys coming out this year's draft, and a lot of guys that are talented, so I'm excited to see who we get, excited to see who my guys from Ohio State go to, so I'm excited for next week.
What's your scouting report on Olave, and what from playing with him, what excites you about him as a receiver?
He's fast, of course. He has great hands, great route runner, and he's probably one of the best deep ball trackers that I've ever played with in my life. So, he's a great player, great person, and just his mindset and the way he carries himself is awesome. So, he's my guy.
You talk about all the knowledge you have now, more knowledge in year two, but it's a new offense and it's going to be a lot of new guys on the offense. What are some of the challenges for you that go with that?
Yeah, I think you answered your own question just by learning the offense. It would be easier if, it was the same offense as last year and we just, were able to grow on that. But, kind of just resets as the rookie year with learning this new offense and just kind of picking it up. So I think that's going to be the most challenging part with, this new coaching regime is just learning this new offense and making sure we all get it down to the details.
Justin, of all the things you went through last year, what will be the most beneficial, especially considering you are starting fresh with a new offense?
I think there are a lot of things that are going to be beneficial this year. Just, my experience out on the field and, me spending time out there and, seeing the speed of an NFL game, seeing, just the feeling of being out there is just different from being on the sideline. So I'm just glad I got, that experience last year. And like I said before, I'm excited for year 2.
Justin, have you had interactions with Ryan Poles throughout the course of this offseason?
I have talked to Ryan a little bit, and we just, kind of gotten to know each other, and, our relationship has grown a lot over these past couple of months.
Well, what are those interactions like? Do you feel that a growing connection with him? Do you feel like you feel the trust from him?
I mean, yeah. I think with any relationship, you can't force it. So I think as time goes along, our relationship will naturally grow and naturally get stronger. So that just comes with time and spending more time with each other.
Justin, with how many times you got sacked last year, is there anything you're working on with your quarterbacks coach or anything you're doing on your own, either here or in Atlanta, to maybe get rid of the ball faster, anything with, along those lines that you're trying to carry into this season?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff in the film last year. You can see that, of course, there were some instances where it was my fault that I got sacked. So it's at the end of the day, it just comes to, limiting those mistakes and getting the ball out and not taking those sacks.
So what have been some of your impressions of Janoko and working with him?
Yeah, he's energetic. He comes with a positive vibe every day to him. He's the same every day, which I love about him. And he's very detailed when explaining concepts and plays and stuff like that. And you can just tell that he loves the game. He knows a lot of stuff. So I'm excited to get to work with him, and I can't wait to get on the field with him today.
Ryan has talked about his desire to add a dependability piece for you, a guy that in big moments you can trust and rely on. When you've had that guy at previous levels, what are some of the traits that go into a guy that you as a quarterback feel is dependable?
I think there's multiple things. I think one, you got to have that connection. Y'all have to be on the same page with what concept you're running, with what coverage you're running to, and then I think the second thing is just that it factor, that mentality, that dog mentality, where no matter what situation it is, what coverage it is, who's guarding you, that he's going to make a play. So just that mentality and having that mentality in big moments will I guess describe that player that you're talking about.
Justin, what's the process been like getting to know Coach Eberflus, and being that he's a defensive-minded head coach? What are kind of your daily interactions with him?
Yeah, I mean, with him, I've just been kind of getting to know him as a person. He sits in on our meetings a lot, so we've gotten a chance to talk to him a lot, and I've gotten to know him a lot more these past few weeks. But yeah, he's a great person. I can tell that he loves this game, and I can tell that he really wants us to be great. So he has a plan, and we're gonna follow after his lead, and we're all excited to get this thing going.
All right, I've got a question for you, Aldo.
Okay.
And I don't want to be Matt Nagy here and be too proud to admit something. I don't know who he was asked about there. Who's Janoko?
The new quarterback coach.
Okay, I was going to say, who the fuck is that? I was like, was that the new center from Green Bay? I was like, no, his name's Patrick or something, right?
Right.
I was like, who is Janoko? So I'm glad you all don't mock me and stone me for saying that, but I didn't realize the new quarterback coach's name.
No, we got to get used to all these guys. It's a new world. Andrew Janoko, as Stephen Nagishi spells it out for us in the chat room. And I've seen some video of him. This guy sounds like he is brilliant, But I felt the same way about John DeFilippo that last year, and that didn't turn out to be. Since I saw John DeFilippo outline plays while he was with the quarterback coach with the Eagles. Since then, he was hired as the Vikings offensive coordinator and fired mid-season, and then he went somewhere else, and then the Bears picked him up, and clearly he didn't have any results with any positive results.
We don't even know that. I mean, Matt Nagy was probably still calling all the plays the whole time.
True.
He might have just been getting coffee for Nagy.
True.
I wish we could get somebody on air, like Mark Helfrich or somebody like that would just spill the fucking beans on this guy.
Yes.
Find out which guy ground the best coffee beans.
Mm-hmm.
And you was able to use the French press the best.
Get Akeem Hicks back on.
I've been asked again what bourbon I'm drinking. It is Driftless Glen. You can find it over at Benny's. It really is some good stuff. All right, so let me start with Tooch. What was the biggest thing that Justin said there that you felt awesome, or you felt that concerns me?
Well, his mood seems a lot better.
It does, right?
It's like the cloud lifted. You know, he's opened up a little bit. It seemed, it's like, he's happy to go to work. Like, when you have a job like that, I hate going into the office. Then something changes. You're like, man, I love going into work now. It's so much better. That's what it seems like, right now, just from watching the whole of the interview.
What about you, Dan? What struck you?
I just feel like he's the guy, man. I listened to him talk, and again, he's better at talking than Trubisky, which means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But, Mitch always spoke in cliches and told you what he's supposed to say, like robotic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Fields, maybe says, of course, too much, but when I take away from these press conferences, which mean they mean nothing, it's April 19th, but I just think we're headed in the right direction.
A couple of things stood out to me was he took responsibility for the absolute fact that he was sacked sometimes because it was his fault. The offensive line, got too much blame for the sack totals, and you got to sometimes blame the quarterback, or you got to sometimes blame the wide receivers, and those guys are sometimes the least to be blamed for sacks, but sometimes it's their fault. They don't run the right pattern. They're slow out of their breaks. They're just not doing things to help the offense run efficiently, and Fields sometimes held the ball too long. Throw the ball into the dirt, do the things to avoid the sack. And so he took responsibility for that. Then the other thing that struck me was when he was asked about his relationship with Ryan Poles. Clearly, the reporters that were asking that because of the Mike Florio report, and it was obvious that Poles and Fields are developing a relationship. And it's a relationship that's going to take time to build. Fields has to prove himself to Poles because Poles is the man in charge. Poles did not select Justin Fields, but this is the way you do it. You do it by having face-to-face meetings. You do it by getting to know each other. You do it by asking questions, getting answers, having dialogue. And so that is really, really important to me. I hope that they continue to have these face-to-face meetings. And so that way Poles can make a very intelligent decision, because let's say Fields goes out there and has an average season and that he just is going to light things up. But because of the interactions that Poles has had with Fields, and because of interactions that he's had with his coaching staff about Fields, that he feels convinced that year 3 is that turnaround season. That's important, because we shouldn't expect things to automatically turn for Fields in one season after he's come off a year of horrible coaching, of coaching that may have retarded his progress as opposed to advanced his progress. And so one of the ways to ensure that this guy is going to be a franchise quarterback is to establish a relationship with his general manager. And so who knows, maybe he tells Post, please get me Chris Olave, or please get me this other guy, Jameson, or get me this, or this is what I need on the offensive line. Or can we have a meeting with the offensive coordinators, the offensive coaches, to talk about this and so forth. Those kinds of dialogue, honesty, type of conversations are vital for a young quarterback to succeed, as opposed to what Pace and Nagy did with Trubisky, which is virtually ignore him, not listen to any of the advice that Trubisky had that would help him play better. So I thought that was big.
I'll tell you what I saw from Justin Fields last year, and to what you were saying about comparing it. What if he has an average year this year? First off, if he has an average year in 2022, that will be so much better than what he did last year that we'll all be happy.
I agree.
An average year would be something like Mitch did, right? Like 3,000 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
At this point, I mean, 3,000 yards in 1984 was a big deal, but nowadays, I mean, an average quarterback can do that. So last year, what I saw, other than the game I was at in Pittsburgh in the second half, when it was more or less just like street ball because you're down and you don't have a lot of time. And, it's just like he was freewheeling and they didn't have time for the coach to get in his fucking way.
Mm-hmm.
He had a couple possessions against San Francisco that he looked dynamic. But for the most part, I saw in 2021 a guy that the coach was holding him back. And I mean, what I mean by that is, like I said on air, it felt like he was simply to complete a pass felt like it was just so arduous that he couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all on coaching. So for more or less 2 games, and maybe the first drive of that Packer game at Soldier Field where Rodgers told us he owned us, Fields never got into a rhythm the entire season. Even when we beat the Raiders, he got the shit beaten out of him, and it was power run game that day. And not at any point were they able to just get him into a rhythm or build some fluidity. I mean, you're running all these short fucking shallow crosses. You would think, all right, let's get him a couple easy passes. They never did. So I felt like subsequently he was losing confidence in himself and the coaching staff. And it looks like to me, when I juxtapose that with today, that he's back to himself thinking, I mean, maybe it's not fair. I don't think he is necessarily blaming Nagy, but because you gotta say you're the player. You're the one who put the tape, like he says, it doesn't lie, right? So you're the one who was on the field. But I think he knows, man, like, all right, I got this. This fucking guy was holding me back. I'm not in shackles anymore with this stupid offense he was running. It's my time. Let's go. He seems like he's reinvigorated.
I love that point that you just made, Dan. And Matthew Fochisi in the chat room says, man, I hope Poles knows how to draft. Well, Matthew, I hope you know how to draft. And I hope Jordan Silveria knows how to draft. And I hope Laz64 knows how to draft, because those 3 and a number of other people I've invited to come on a show tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central and share their mock drafts and talk about why they selected those players. And I'm got an open invitation to anyone else who wants to send me their mock draft. We'll talk about it on the show. Or if you want to appear on the show, I'll figure out a way to squeeze you in. Send me a DM on Twitter, direct message on Twitter. That's at Barroom Network, or send me an email, aldo@bearsbarroom.com. So that's tomorrow at 7 p.m. I'm really looking forward to that. Tooch, any you want to reply at all to what Mr. Dan Aguirre said there about Justin Fields? Because I'll tell you one thing, Dan kind of fired me up. All of a sudden, my record of 6-11 has now moved to 7-10.
Before John, one more thing about my point,
Please
then I'd love to hear his response.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, when we had average quarterbacks, whether that be Shane Matthews or Jim Miller, I'm not trying to shit on these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying a lot of times they played better than what their talent was. And how did we do that? Whether that was John Shoup as a coordinator, you throw a screen pass to Anthony Thompson, or Anthony Thomas, you throw a short pass to Fred Baxter, and then suddenly you go, then there's a little shallow cross for Des White, and then boom, Marty Booker's deep. You establish some kind of confidence for the guy to get him into a rhythm by having easy completions, and then everything else comes together. It's like they absolutely didn't try to do that for Fields. There was like never an emphasis, okay, let's build his confidence. And the most average quarterback, the most average coaches that we've had, you could say, whether it be Dick Duran or, like I said, they at least try, even if it was Cade McNown, they tried to build him into a rhythm that day. And the bald fuck just never tried or cared. But I digress.
No, I think you make good points. And, there was, and Tooch, I'm going to get to you in a second, but I do want to share this. After that Cleveland game, a lot of fans were speculating that Matt Nagy may have, I think Dan, maybe even you, may have sabotaged Justin Fields' performance. And I got to tell you, at that time, I said, fuck no, there's no way he's going to do that, and harm his coaching career. He wants to win. He wants to keep his job and so forth. But now I'm actually starting to wonder, did he sabotage Justin Fields' debut performance in Cleveland because he was upset that McCaskey was wondering, why isn't Justin Fields the starter? Because it's been reported that at that preseason game, when Justin Fields came into the game for his very first appearance, McCaskey was there and saw the crowd electrified. Fields getting a standing ovation. And McCaskey wondering, why isn't this guy our starter? And the word is that McCaskey would ask Nagy, why isn't he the starter? And Nagy never had a good response. That he would talk like he does in his press conferences, go all the way, 3 minutes of bullshit talk, and then say he's not ready. And McCaskey was upset with that explanation.
And if you believe Hub Arkish, who still says he stands by his reporting, at some point George said he's got to be the starter. I'm sorry, he's starting.
And I'm beginning to believe that is absolute truth, even though George McCaskey himself denied it. But fuck, I've lied before.
I mean, you would say fake. I think anyone would lie at the face of an organization like that. They're not going to come out and tell you something that's going to make them or the organization look bad and have the next regime come in thinking, oh, is this guy going to overreach or overstep? Because George trying to get Fields in, allegedly, I mean, that's an aberration. It's not like something he does all the time, reportedly. So, but I'm sure he didn't want that out to make people think that he's Jerry Jones or Daniel Snyder, who constantly interferes with their team, So I could see why he would lie about that, or at least not want that out there, that narrative, and just to shut it down. I'm not saying that I advocate it, but I understand it.
Yeah. Tooch, what are you thinking? By the way, Tooch, you look really fucking cool tonight. More cooler than you normally do. You're wearing a black shirt against the black greenish background. Oh, he's got a Bears Barroom shirt on. I love you. I love you. Big hug to you, brother. One of the founders of Bears Barroom, Johnny.
Representing.
Very good. So what we've been talking about?
Well, I mean, it's quite possible that George McCaskey lied just to divert the view that he meddles, or that he's a meddling owner, because that's been the knock for quite some time. That the McCaskies are always meddling in the, not letting the football people do their jobs and stuff, But we'll never know. As far as I still think this year's going to be a little rough, man. The offensive line, we upgraded at center. That's good. Guard, I'm not so sure. It looks like Whitehair and some guy named Dakota Dozier will be starting.
No, he won't.
I don't know.
I don't even know he's going to make the team, to be honest.
I don't know.
ESPN. Larry Borum might be the right guard, but we'll see.
To me, Larry Borum's the best offensive lineman on this roster as it currently stands.
Wow.
I think he might be the best player we could put at left tackle as the roster currently stands right now. I mean, I think he played left tackle at Missouri, and he's got he's got the strength and the feet to do it. Tevin Jenkins, I'm not sure is as quick as Borum. That's just me. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing, John, that I think lends credence to what you're talking about. The tape that we saw, the college tape that we saw on Larry Borum is much different than the Larry Borum who showed up to camp last year, because he went through an off-season regimen of losing weight and becoming more limber and agile and athletic. And he's a different player than that college tape. There's no doubt about it in my mind. I mean, the guy that I saw lining up for the Chicago Bears is not the same guy that I saw in the college tape. And the college tape wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, no, his tape was great. He didn't get beat a lot. And then he played when he did get a chance with the Bears. He did play pretty good. But I still think there's players out there that the Bears could sign, to play left tackle. I mean, Eric Fisher, he's still out there. He's a guy that Ryan Poles probably knows pretty well. Just waiting to see, maybe his price will come down. I don't know. Maybe they're waiting to see what how the draft turns out. They don't get a guy at tackle, they're going to be knocking on Eric Fisher's door. I guarantee you that. Somebody like that.
He's going to play next season. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt
is, and and after June 1st, there's going to be cuts of certain players, and maybe there's a veteran offensive lineman, a left tackle, who might be intriguing for the Bears as a bridge to somebody. Somebody in the chat said earlier, the Bears are going to have a bad record this season. Maybe their number 1 draft pick next year, which would be a top 5, top 10 pick, would be a left tackle. And hell, so if you find a bridge player to play that position and tailor the offense to keep Justin healthy, I would buy that. I have to be patient because the route that Ryan Poles has taken for building this team is meticulous and it demands our patience. I hope Dan is right that we have a winning season. Somebody in the chat room earlier said, that he's typically very, very cautious about predicting records, but he's got the Bears at 11 wins this season because of how the division looks and so forth. And I apologize. I should star these so I can remember who wrote these. But it is, it does seem like there's anything that can be bad but encouraging to actually good and maybe contend for a playoff. I think that's the range that we're in. Now, Tooch, I hear you saying that maybe we could be headed towards a disaster. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it could be ugly, but this is kind of what you have to go through with the young quarterback. I mean, I don't think Justin Fields' rookie season was much of an education under Matt Nagy, and I think that he'll learn a lot more in his second year under the coaching staff that he has this year. Third year, though, I'm expecting big things. I think he'll show you some good flashes. He may get you 1 or 2 wins all by himself next year, and we don't know how all of these no-name free agents that we signed. I don't know whether Ryan Poles could just be creating a lot of competition at positions, making players better that way through competition, a crucible of fire, so to speak, just throwing these players in there, under pressure to see which guys come out on top. Safety doesn't look very promising to me with Houston Carson and Eddie Jackson. I don't know. They got to upgrade at safety. They probably need to upgrade at guard. I'm not so sure Cody Whitehair's best days are in front of him. I think they're behind him. But I mean, I don't know. The O-line is a big question mark.
Stephen Mee says our biggest O-line addition is Lucas Patrick, who has had serious concussion issues. We haven't made a serious move yet for offensive line. Everyone needs linemen. Our plan is to find someone in the draft. It's a risky plan. What do you think about that, Dan?
I'm going to go with however they go. You can call me the Bears. What was it Mike North said? Ball washer.
Bears ball washer.
I'm going to be a Bears ball washer this year, and I'm going to buy into whatever they tell me to for right now and let the new regime go. So if they draft somebody right now, then fine. But I will not concede. I'm like Al Gore in 2000 when it comes to saying we're going to have a losing season. I mean, is it plausible? Of course it's possible. But I don't know. I'm not going to say that it's out of the – I just don't know it could be any worse than the last 2 or 3 years. I really don't. I think on paper, unless Fields would get hurt, God forbid, something like that.
Yeah.
I just don't know how we could be worse.
Nomad says the unknown. That's something the Bears have going for them, and that's trouble for the
element of surprise, Aldo.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is that the element of surprise is usually good for a handful of games.
Yeah.
And as the season goes on, these coaches are smart enough to figure it out. In most cases now, I have seen cases before where that element of surprise can last a season, but it's not as often as maybe in the past. But Dan, I love your optimism, man. I really, really do. And when you talk like that, I wish I could fly you in on Sunday so we could watch the Bears in our my man cave here, my bear cave. I don't want to call it man cave anymore because I I want women here too. I want,
I'd love women.
Yeah, I want strippers here. I want lap dances while I'm watching the Bears game.
Maybe some of those transgenders that are so popular these days.
No, but they are welcome to serve me drinks.
I do hope to get there again, though. I mean, like I said, I had it, it was really rushed just because we had to drive and all that. So maybe next time if I can fly, we can really hang out and spend more time together,
Yeah.
Your man cave or your bear. Let's call it the bear cave.
Bear
then.
cave.
How about that?
Very good. I like that.
The bear cave is spectacular.
Thank
you. I mean, it really is. I mean, I'm not placating. It was fucking awesome. You and Aaron, man, Aaron's fucking bear cave then is on point too. So
yeah, Aaron Mikulski. Is that correct? Mikulski or Michalski?
Mikulski, yeah.
Mikulski. Yeah, he's got a great.
He painted the walls just exquisitely. I mean, just incredibly.
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing that too. Mine's are red and white in honor of the Blackhawks because at the time that I created this, the girls were so interested in the Blackhawks, and my two daughters wanted to go to every Blackhawk game, and I got them interested in at least one sport. So I wanted to do anything possible to make them happy. But now it's ready for a navy blue and orange setup. So let's get the paint, guys, and I'll invite you over. We can all paint together. All right, guys, I want to share something with you. I was actually in the car and I heard Dane Brugler, who is one of my favorite writers about the draft. Dane Brugler works over at The Athletic, and for the last, 2-3 years, maybe more, he's been writing his draft profile. It's a 100-page, maybe 200-page document on all of the top prospects. And what he does is really spectacular. He goes through their background. He talks about where the player came from, where he grew up from, his family background, and so forth. So you can get a sense of the player and what they did in high school and stuff. And then he provides the metrics of what they ran on their pro day and what they did at the combine, if they played at the combine. And then he lists their strengths and weaknesses, and then he does a summary. And it's like,
I love those
man, and it's like
he's
so
at The
many
Athletic now. Was it CBS before? Was CBS? Is that what he was before?
I think you're right. That's where he was. You're absolutely right. And Greg Gabriel loves him, and Greg contacted him and said, you really should be hired by an NFL team. And he, and Dane, who just had twins, so how he could do this massive amount of work. This is usually done by a whole staff of scouts. Dane Brugler himself is doing it. Anyway, he was a guest. We had him on last year on Draft on Tap, and I haven't reached out to him this year, but he was a guest on 670 The Score with Dan Bernstein. And he talked about his mock draft. He has Christian Watson going to the Bears with their 39th pick, and he talked about the other players. But what I wanted to isolate on were a couple of questions that Dan Bernstein asked Dane regarding about what we can perhaps learn about Ryan Poles with this upcoming draft. And I thought his responses were interesting. Let's take a listen.
How can I watch the Bears draft? Whether it's trading up, trading down, whatever the names are and the positions are, what indicators will tell me more about what Ryan Poles really thinks about Justin Fields?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, he did not draft Justin. We don't know exactly, truth serum time, what his exact evaluation was, before he took this job. But just understanding, Ryan was in Kansas City for a long time. So, he learned under a lot of different decision makers, John Dorsey and Chris Ballard, and then, of course, with Brett Veach. And so, those three guys are very different with how they, look at talent, their philosophies on building a roster, building a culture. And so I think he's had a chance to see it done a lot of different ways. And of course, all those years with head coach Andy Reid, he's seen a lot of different ways to do it. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch as he looks to build this roster. And it starts with the quarterback. He knows he has a chance to have something special here with Justin Fields. I think that's safe to say. But how does he build the offense around Justin? Is the priority going to be offensive line? Is it going to be to get him more weapons? In a perfect world, you're doing both. You're doing everything you can, but there might be a point in the second round, especially with having 2 second-round picks. Does he get the urge to trade up and get maybe say he has a first-round grade on Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver from Penn State? Say he slips a little bit. He's available in the early second round. Do you trade your second and third to go up and get him, knowing you have another second you can fall back on to address offensive or defensive line? Or do you think this is still early? I'm just let's stay pat. Let's wait and see who falls to us. I'm very interested to find out, just kind of what his drafting philosophy is, how aggressive he wants to be as he kind of builds this roster. So I think just like I know a lot of Bears fans, very eager to find out how he attacks this draft without a first-round pick, but having 3 picks on day 2. It'll be interesting.
Dane, your colleague at The Athletic, Sheil Kapadia, wrote a really interesting piece several weeks ago about the truths of how NFL teams make deals. And one of those absolute facts is that a coach or a regime in trouble, desperate to hold on to their jobs, can be viewed as a weak person at the table. And sometimes that desperation is something on which they can play. What I'm wondering is, from your perspective, is there any historical data about first-year GMs, or whatever you want to call the position, anybody in charge of a draft for the first time? Are there likelihoods of, I want to trade up for my guy, or I want to trade down to diffuse responsibility, soften the blow a little bit, have more opportunities, more spins at the wheel? Like, I'm just wondering, are there any things that the league thinks about somebody in charge of one of these things for an NFL team for the very first time?
Yeah, no, that's a fascinating question. I think the results have been mixed over the years, where sometimes in some cases we see, and especially with quarterbacks, I think that's where it really shows, where, first-year general managers, first-year coaches, if they don't absolutely fall head over heels for a quarterback, they don't necessarily feel pressured that they need to go in that direction. Where if you're on the hot seat and you feel like, hey, we need a jolt to this team, and we don't absolutely love this quarterback, but we recognize he has talent, and there's a chance he might work out, and so you're more inclined to roll the dice on that quarterback. And so I think that's where we especially see it. We saw it last year in the first round with like a new regime in Atlanta. They had the hometown guy with Justin Fields sitting right there for him, and they opted to go a little more conservative. And, the Matt Ryan contract and all that was part of it. But instead of drafting the quarterback for the future, which they could certainly use right now, instead of being in quarterback limbo with where they find themselves in that organization, they went with the top non-quarterback in the draft, and that was Kyle Pitts last year at number 4. So I think more often than not, we see first-year head coaches, general managers look to be maybe a little conservative in terms of, there's no point. We don't have to be aggressive here if we don't want to be. But at the same time, we do see examples where they want to, kind of, be a little aggressive and show that, hey, we mean business. We want to win. We're going to do whatever it takes. And so I think we see a little bit of both with these first year guys, and with especially with Chicago this year, not having that first round pick, not picking on Thursday, and then getting a good night's sleep Thursday night, wake up Friday. They're going to be chomping at the bit to pick, and so it'll be interesting.
Guys, what do you think about what was just shared there? I, for one, I would be shocked if Ryan Poles does make a trade, even if Chris Olave is gettable. I don't know, man. I still think that he wants to keep as many draft assets as possible. But what do you guys think overall about what Dane Brugler said there? Dan, I'll start with you because I know we've got limited time with you.
I thought that initially the question about that Dan Bernstein asked about, is there a propensity for new GMs to go one way or the other? I thought that was an excellent question. Yeah. I don't think that that's quantified. Right. And so I don't think that the other gentleman could give you the answer that he was looking for. But I don't know. You could bring in any expert. You could bring Greg on, someone that obviously has so much credibility, but nobody knows what Ryan Poles is going to do until Ryan Poles does it. So anything else is just conjecture. Right. Either way, whether I agree with you that he won't make a move or that he will make a move. I thought that his reference to Justin Fields with Atlanta was a chilling one. I'd almost forgotten about that they had a shot at him. Like, ooh, yeah, you're right. How much better off would they be right now if they had Fields after they unloaded Matt Ryan for like a third-round pick? I don't know. I don't think I have the soundbite you're looking for. I'm sorry.
No, what you shared was great. I appreciate that. Tooch, any thoughts on what Brugler shared with Bernstein?
Yeah, I kind of think it makes a lot of sense what he was saying. I mean, I'm not so sure. Like, this is his first draft with the Bears, so maybe he doesn't really have any intention to trade around and stuff, and he's got his guys. Let's just make this first draft go as smooth as possible, and in these slots, build the line. I mean, there's a lot of talk right now that like the very first picks will be either building in the trenches of not skill position players, but linemen, whether offensive or defensive. And I think it would not surprise me to Poles not make any moves. Get his like draft picks, spend all of them wisely, and then go into that third wave of free agency that he's been talking about.
Yeah, I love the fact that we've got 3 picks on day 2. That should be 3 starters. If we don't walk away with 3 starters from the day 2 picks, then that's going to be a major blemish on Ryan Poles. He has to be thinking the same thing. With a team with so many needs, you just can't miss with those 3 picks. You just have to land some starters. Now, those 3 picks on day 3, yeah, if you want to trade down your 5th round pick so you could pick up a couple of more 6s or whatever, then it is what it is. But your chances of landing starters on day 3 are much more diminished than they are when you have 3 day 2 picks. So I agree with a lot of people in the chat saying, that Poles is probably not going to trade, but we're all on a learning phase here. We're all going to see what this new general manager is like. Is he going to be aggressive? And if he is aggressive, what are the results going to be? Let's face it. I've got a love for Chris Olave, and if he trades up and it's not too damaging in terms of loss of draft picks, and we land Chris Olave, and so we walk away out of this draft with maybe 2 starters as opposed to 3. I don't know. That might be pretty good. What do you think, Dan? The whole idea of losing a potential starter because you're picking up a potential superstar wide receiver in Chris Olave.
I think if that's going to happen, it's going to be through Robert Quinn. I don't think he's going to give up a lot of draft capital, maybe both seconds and Robert Quinn to move up to the first round.
I hope you're right. Yeah.
Something like that. I think he'll make a move with the assets he has without eliminating the draft picks. That's my prediction. I could be wrong. I think that's probably what he's trying to do because, Quinn had a phenomenal season, but, you've already traded Khalil Mack. So you might, if you could trade to get that wide receiver, you probably would offer a 32-year-old Robert Quinn as well.
Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about is what players on the roster do you have now and are possible trade assets? So Eberflus talked about, the evaluation process, and he said that even stuff that they're seeing now could impact the draft next week. So, he gave kind of an okay response about Eddie Jackson not being there, but who knows? Maybe Eddie Jackson is that throw-in in a trade, and the Bears do pick up a portion of his salary just to move on from him. What it leaves, though, is a huge hole in the safety position. Like Greg Gabriel says, Eddie Jackson, there's a lot to blame with Eddie Jackson, but one of the things that you can't complain about is the fact that he is the quarterback of those safeties. He does call alignments. He is smart and has that experience now. But I wouldn't mind seeing Eddie Jackson gone as much as I liked him after the 2018 season. is as much as a disappointment he's been since then.
Absolutely agree.
Anybody else, Dan or John, that you think are possible trade bait? When you look at this roster, would you trade David Montgomery?
I wouldn't, but given his contract is up soon, that's certainly a possibility.
Yep. What do you think, Tooch?
I think that'd be the number one guy aside from Robert Quinn. I mean, you get rid of Robert Quinn, you don't have you really weaken yourself at pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
The pass rushers are so hard to find. Granted, he's going to be moving to defensive end rather than outside linebacker. But, I'm hesitant to give up good pass rushers. He's not that old. What is he, 30, 31, Robert Quinn?
31, I believe.
31?
Yeah. Won't he be 32 in the fall, though?
Yes, he'll be 32 in the fall. That's correct.
Okay, so he's still got some mileage left.
I think he's got 2 or 3 good seasons left in him. But then now you have to re-sign him after this season. So that, all of a sudden the money that he made, if he has another season like he did last season, then he's going to be asking for double the money he's making.
In which case you get nothing for him.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't see Poles trading up at all, man. If anything, I think he'd trade back. I mean, the guy he replaced was the guy who traded up and killed why it's the reason why we don't have much draft capital this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he wants to pad out the number of draft picks he has, he may trade away one of those second round picks. But I mean, we should get some compensatory picks for losing, perhaps guys like Allen Robinson, or if Hakeem Hicks signs elsewhere, we might get a couple compensatory picks. I don't know whether they'll be, I don't know what round they'll be in or anything. But
nobody knows because it's such a fucked up formula that they have that even people who follow the sport regularly don't fucking know.
It's like that draft trade chart, but like a chart from hell. They need Jimmy Johnson to do the compensatory pick charts, maybe, huh?
That would be good. I mean, I just wish it was transparent so that we could know going, as soon as the transactions are done, well, this will result in a blah, blah, blah. But, they've got some vague rules.
Is this Dan's burner?
3Z's world says, I think if they trade Montgomery, I'm just done with the team.
It's Dan's burner account.
I don't have a burner, I promise.
I'm just kidding.
But that's pretty much how you feel, though, right, Dan? I mean,
I wouldn't say fuck it if they traded him. I would be disappointed because I think he's a solid player. But would I be like, oh, I'm not a fan anymore? Fuck no. I'm still here.
Yeah. The thing about Montgomery is one of the reasons I love him so much is because he picks up yards after contact, and the way he battles, there's been so many times where he's hit behind the line of scrimmage. Oh, that's a negative play. And he turns it into a positive play, even if it's a yard or two, but sometimes it's even more than that. He's got such, and he's a leader. He's a locker room leader. He's an example leader by how hard he works. That makes him very, very valuable in my book. But with this new outside zone, a blocking technique that Getsy is bringing to the Bears, Khalil Herbert might be the better of the two suited for this offense. Now,
I kind of feel like I did when they traded Greg Olsen, where they're like, well, he just doesn't suit the offense anymore. I mean, come on, we could have played with G-Reg, and I think we could play with David Montgomery right now.
I'm sorry, you said what about Greg Olsen when he was traded?
I said I kind of feel the same way because at the time the idea was he wasn't suitable for Mike Martz's offense.
Right.
Like he didn't fit it.
Right.
I said I think we could have managed keeping number 82 with the Bears, and I think we can keep David Montgomery here as well, despite the fact, for whatever reason, people can say, he's not a fit. I think we can make him a fit.
Yeah. Well, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I've said this a number of times on this show and other shows here on the Barroom Network. The whole idea that you draft Greg Olsen, this is on Jerry Angelo. You draft Greg Olsen, great draft pick, outstanding pick. This guy is,
and your quarterback's best friend.
Yes, absolutely. And then you hire an offensive coordinator who thinks the tight end should be a third tackle is like, what are you doing here? What are you fucking doing? It's like you brought a blue outfit and now you're fucking wearing, green. I don't know. I don't know what the analogy is, but it was just a total fucking mistake. And I understand that Lovie Smith really wanted Mike Martz, but that's the problem. That was the problem with Lovie. I love Lovie.
It's desperation.
Yes.
He's like, I don't know offense. I need a superstar offensive coordinator. Give me Mike Martz.
Right.
Right? And that's how you end up with guys like Brandon Maliuna, who Dan's burning that jersey now.
Maybe at the time, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Lovey, but Mike Martz hired him as the defensive coordinator when he was in St. Louis. So maybe it was out of like, okay, you gave me a break. You're unemployed now. So one hand washes the other. You know?
But okay, so say that, but hey, Mike, I want to bring you in. Jerry Angelo is all in, but I got to tell you, can you change your philosophy on tight ends? Because we've got a great fucking tight end here who can catch the ball.
I agree with you.
Find a way to use him.
Yes,
find a way.
No, I'm sorry. I really like Maliuna.
Even if he did like Brandon, whatever the fuck Alula, it's like he could have played Greg as pretty much a Tom Waddle kind of wide receiver and split him out. And how many times did the Bears do that anyway? Early on, when they got near the goal line, they would put him basically running a wheel route to the end zone. I mean, they did that frequently, like when Orton or Greasy or Rex were throwing him the ball.
Yep. I'll tell you what, Mike Martz got a horseshoe planted into his ass when he became the offensive coordinator of a team that had Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt,
Marshall
Falk. I mean, you're talking about fucking offensive weapons. Yeah, when you got guys like that, give me a tight end who can block to give those guys extra time to get open. Absolutely. But that's not what we had.
Even they had a tight end, Roland Williams, who could catch pretty well. I don't know why he just didn't like Greg Olsen.
Yeah. I don't know.
He was there in 2010, right? We go to the NFC Championship game, and Greg's a big part of that. Remember the first playoff pass Jay ever threw against Seattle? It was a bomb to Olsen. Touchdown in the snow.
No, I don't remember that, but I expect you to. That's amazing.
Yeah, remember we beat Seattle to go to the NFC Championship game. The first pass that Jay threw, it was like 2 Forte runs, and then it was third and, I don't know, 5, 6, whatever. And he went deep for Olsen, and it was a touchdown on the first playoff pass of his career.
Oh, my God.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
And I just like, why wouldn't you think, well, you got a guy who's a little bit moody at quarterback, and there's the one guy he's comfortable with, not only on the field, but off the field. Yep. Why, if anything else, wouldn't you want to keep him together just for Jay's psyche? You know, it was one of the worst trades ever.
How much of Mike Martz Rams offense was a result of having like guys like Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Marshall Falk, right? Like four Hall of Famers make anybody look pretty good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus. Absolutely.
He came here and he didn't have anything. He got rid of Olsen. Probably would have been his best receiver.
Right. And before he came here, he went to Detroit and didn't do anything, right?
Right. Yeah. And remember when he won
the Lions,
Dick Vermeil was the coach. He was not the coach.
That's right. And he was handed the coaching reins and failed after that. So Mike Martz, wherever you are right now, probably scratching your balls and looking over an old playbook. Fuck you, as Jay Cutler said.
Yeah. Tell Martz I said fuck you.
What was it exactly that he said?
Tell Martz I said fuck you.
Tell Mike I said fuck him.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, against Minnesota on a Sunday night game.
A great moment in Bears history. There is no doubt about it. That's all we can look at and say and look at it with pride.
we went from like Mike Martz to Mike Tice, right?
Yeah.
It's like going from Einstein to Meathead.
Perfect.
You know, I kind of liked Mike Tice when he was in Minnesota, though, because he had that Tony Soprano look.
Yeah, I liked him, but he wasn't an offensive coordinator. He maybe, a head coach type. Yeah, I can buy that. A guy who's overseeing people and firing people up and so forth. But I don't think he was a strategic thinker, and for the Bears to anoint him offensive coordinator. What did he do that? A year or two with the Bears? Either way.
One year. He
Yeah.
was gone. Like he was there in 2012. Wait. Did Mike Martz leave? No, Mike Martz was there in 2011. He was gone. Tice was there in 12, and then he and Lovey got the boot. And then we brought Tressman in.
Right. Oh, gosh.
He had like 5 Hall of Famers on offense.
Yeah.
You know?
Orlando Pace.
Well, to be fair, no one knew Kurt Warner was Kurt Warner yet.
Right.
Right. That was the first year I played fantasy football, Tooch. And my quarterback, I think it was Steve Young, was injured. And somebody said, why don't you pick up that Kurt Warner guy? I go, fuck you. I'm not going to pick up him. That cost me, man. That cost me big time. All right. Are you guys done talking Bears? Because I do want to talk a little bit about winning time. We've got about 20 minutes with Dan Aguirre. This week's
episode was great, man.
Was sensational, but Dan has a problem with it. So let's let him start with his evaluation.
No, I love the show.
Yes.
Overall. But this is like last week or the other day, but this week's episode, then, if you want to call it. A couple of things I didn't like. I didn't know this ahead of time. I'm not some Laker fan or Boston fan, either one. During those times when I was a kid, I definitely would have rooted for the Lakers in this matchup. I liked offense. I liked scoring points. I didn't like Boston. For some reason, as a young man, I didn't realize how great Kevin McHale was either. Like, I figured that out by watching games over. I mean, holy shit, what a great player he was. But, I just didn't like Boston. I don't like green. I always hated the Packers, always hated green. So, anyway. So I didn't have a propensity to know, like, their schedule in 1980, that kind of stuff. But as it turns out, the first time they actually played, and, you sent me the link, they played at the Forum first and not the Boston Garden. And even if they ignore that fact, the game they played at the Boston Garden, Michael Cooper didn't hit the game-winning shot.
That's right.
So things like that bother me. Like, I get it if you're going to condense things, or like Bob Ryan said, I know you're going to segue to that. He said that Jerry West should sue them for character defamation.
Right.
If he's making up stuff about, I don't mean Jeff Pearlman, but the screenwriter, whomever, if he's making up people's personalities. Like, if Paul Westhead wasn't as impotent and weak as he appears, then he should be pissed off about that portrayal as well. But my point is, if you're going to change some couple things, you can't change the history of the game, though. You can't change how it happened. Like, are they just for dramatic effect going to say when Magic goes to center in Game 6 and wins the championship in Philly that Kareem was actually there? I mean, I know Kareem didn't play. Are they going to say he was on the bench and he gives Magic some speech when in reality he was in LA waiting for them to come back because everyone thought they were going to play Game 7 and he was rehabbing. So, I mean, just, you can't change to me, the history of the way the game went down. That's sacred. Now, I'm not saying that's Jeff Pearlman's fault or anyone specifically, but it's one thing to change or condense a character, but not the outcome of the game. Like, that's sacred, man. Do you disagree?
Go ahead, John. You
I don't know I was caught up in the drama of the series, So it's what Dan's saying is that they didn't actually win that third game on the road in this episode.
No, they did, but it didn't happen with Michael Cooper. Jamal Wilkes got fouled, I think I read, and he just nailed 2 free throws, and the score was different.
Okay.
And it was at LA. It wasn't at Boston.
No, but I meant the Boston game, though. The one they won in Boston, it did come down to 2 points, but it had a different score, and it was won at the free throw line by Wilkes as opposed to Michael Cooper on a pick and roll.
Right. And the way that particular game was depicted on Winning Time actually happened, but it happened in LA earlier in the season.
Okay.
So that's the big bugaboo with
I'm with Dan, but I don't know I'm caught up in the series, the drama, the storytelling. So I don't know what happened. I tell you the truth. I like many people was not an NBA fan back then. It wasn't
nobody
popular.
had access to it.
You couldn't watch the games, right? They were on newsreels and stuff. But The show. I love the way that Larry Bird was portrayed. Who's like, Larry, what'd you have for breakfast today? Food. The who was rolling off the stuff at the press conference.
To me, that's probably bullshit too. They made him seem like Brett Favre.
Sure.
Yeah,
food.
Like the whole. Now I could be wrong. Maybe I started watching late. And granted, I was not watching the 1980 NBA season because I wasn't born yet until the fall.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I started watching basketball, Bird was always quite complimentary of Magic and his skills, and vice versa. Magic was always saying things like, people discredit Larry because he's white, and I'll be like, that brother's bad. I don't give a fuck what color he is. And it wasn't like a big deal. Like, I know he had that problem with Dennis Rodman saying that if he were black, he would be an average player.
Right.
But beyond that, I mean, I don't know that. Maybe I'm ignorant to it, but I don't know that Bird's race was constantly fucking shoved down people's throats. And I know their officials weren't as bad as they were portrayed in that episode, like allowing people to fucking tackle the Lakers and stuff. I mean, a lot of that's really over the top. And I don't think he's not Brett Favre from Mississippi. Larry Bird was from Indiana. I know they called him the hick from French Lick, but he wasn't that country. Like, he wasn't spitting tobacco on people, it was just so over. This was the worst episode of the series.
And to me, it was the most enjoyable episode.
Yeah.
And yes, they took a lot of creative liberties with it. But as Jeff Pearlman himself said in the tweet, this is a different medium. And so they take my book, that it's all based on facts, stories that people told me, research that he made. And the movie makers now try to make something that is compelling and is watchable for 10 episodes. Yeah. And so he, like me, agrees that it's totally different. This is not The Last Dance, which was a documentary based on evidence of what happened, actual scores, actual games, and the recollections of players like Michael Jordan and all the other players that were interviewed. That's a totally different genre of storytelling. Movie making and these TV series is totally different. They take a real thing, just like Oliver Stone, a movie that Dan and I love a lot, and maybe Tuch does too, JFK. That Oliver Stone speculated on things that could have potentially happened.
But I know almost all the sources he took things from, though, and I believe Oliver believes them to be true. Yes. And so do I, for that matter, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I think the difference is these are facts that are not subject to questioning because it's not the way it happened. I know it's not a documentary, but in the same sense, if you're going to write I think if you're going to write a screenplay, you would go with the basic facts, even if you have to condense characters. Like if this were a movie about the 85 Bears, wouldn't you be pissed off if we played Miami in the Super Bowl instead of New England?
Yeah, but they're not going that far with the changing effects. Stephen Mee says, I agree with Dan. You can't change the outcome of sports events for the sake of the show storyline, but they're not changing the outcome. What they're changing is the chronology.
But they changed the score and the order and who won the game. And like, to me, that's crossing the line, in my opinion. I'm going to keep watching. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I just think that that's the worst part. And if you believe Bob Ryan, which you and I talked about it on air then, I was like, my God, is Jerry West really like this?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. But Bob Ryan said he should sue for character defamation. So if they completely made up Jerry West's disposition, then once more, I'm going to have to give a huge thumbs down to the show for that. I just don't know the answer to it.
All right, let's listen to Bob Ryan. He was on the Colin Cowherd podcast. This is Ryan's objection with the show, which mirrors what Dan is saying.
You watched, by the way, HBO special on the Lakers, the Jeff Pearlman book, Winning Time. Have you seen any of that yet?
I have watched episodes 1 and 2, and I plan to keep doing it despite my better judgment. But I will need a barf bucket before it's over. It is okay. It's a dramatization.
Yes.
It doesn't make it a secret about the fact that it's a dramatization based on a book. Based on a book. I think the only thing that is true that they based it on was that it's about the Lakers. About everything else is fantasy. I just fear that too many gullible people might actually think these things happened or that these people are like this. If I were Jerry West, I would say, here's my lawyer. I don't know what Jerry West ever did to Adam McKay to be portrayed in such an unflattering light, an unrealistic light, a just embarrassing light. And that's just for openers, Colin. The Red Auerbach portrayal is preposterous. I hear what they've done to Larry is preposterous. It's disgustingly awful. And the world didn't need this. I'm sorry. But I got to keep watching because people talk about it. I do a podcast. I got to talk about it. And it's outrageous. It's horrible.
Well, guys, Dan and John, you're not going to Tooch, you're muted before I ask you this question. Unmute yourself. There you go. You agree with Bob Ryan?
Well, I mean,
You heard this to John? Okay, go ahead.
To a certain extent, yes. Do I love the show even though it's like fantasy? Yeah, I love the show. I want to party with Jerry Buss, man. It's like, it's like, I mean, I can't stop watching it. It's like I'm enjoying it so much, even though I'm glad that I have Dan as like the voice of reason to not let me go too far into the fantasy. But yeah, I love the show. I mean, you have to make it compelling for viewers to come back, but I can understand how like diehard sports fans who know like everything about the time frame, which I don't because I wasn't following the Lakers back then. But for me, it's like reading like the Doors. No one here gets out alive, or Led Zeppelin's A Hammer of the Gods. Where you're reading about a rock band, and all their exploits on the road and stuff. For me, that's a lot of fun. But I definitely can see Dan's point of view.
Well, I think if you early in the season, or not the actual football season or basketball season, I'm talking about on the show, early in the season, they had the reenactment of Magic's first game against the Clippers when Kareem won the shot and Magic jumped on him, and Kareem's basically like, get the fuck off of me. And he's like, big man Cap, if you hit, he's like, there's 81 more of these. So if you hit 81 more of these shots, I'm jumping on you 81 more times. That allegedly really was said and happened. And that's the way the game ended, with Kareem with the winning shot there. So, and Magic did jump on him. So again, I like that. They reenacted that sequence the way it really went down. Like, to change who won the game and stuff. Like, what? Okay, Aldo, what if this was a Michael Jordan shit and they say, oh, you know what? When he was sick in Utah, regardless of how he got sick, not the point, but he's sick in Utah. Pippen was the one who had all the points, because the guy writing it, he's a Scottie Pippen fan. You'd be like, well, that's not what fucking happened. That would piss you off.
See, but to me, and I can't say this with great authority because I haven't read the Jeff Pearlman book. I just bought it, and so I'll be able to speak with some more accuracy on this. But to me, if they're making changes that captured the spirit of what went on during that period, then that's fine. Because in order to do a actual real accounting of things that have happened, it takes too long. It's not interesting. It has to, when you're making a movie or a TV show, it has to be encapsulated. And so things can be emblematic. And that happens all the times. We saw Stephen Mead talk about the movie Damned United. This is Stephen Mead saying movie Damned United had the same issue. Players ended up suing for the portrayal that they were all assholes and rewriting history for entertainment. Well, I bet you they lost that lawsuit because that happens all the time. Remember The Titans, one of the great football movies of all time, with Denzel Washington as the black head coach of a high school. First time a black head coach had taken over a high school of that particular school or in that area. And you talk to the players nowadays, they'll tell you there were no issues with racism. That was all made up for the movie. And you go over sports movie after sports movie after sports movie, it's all done differently for the sake of cinema, for the sake of a 90-minute.
But I'm not disagreeing with you on that, Aldo. My disagreement is with them changing the way the game went down. Like, to me, you can't have Michael Cooper hitting the game-winning shot when he didn't.
But Michael Cooper did hit the game-winning shot in Los Angeles in that one game. What they did is they changed the venue and the timeline. So there's still a lot of accuracy. Everything that happened as it was portrayed in that game at Boston happened in Los Angeles. So they didn't deviate that far from reality with that. What they did is because they wanted to show how hostile it was to play in Boston. They wanted to show the competitive atmosphere of Boston versus LA, that they placed that particular game in Boston so they could show the rats running through the Boston Garden, so they could show the mystique of Boston Garden, so they could show Red Auerbach being a fucking asshole.
And that fucking that radio announcer too.
Johnny
I
Most?
never knew his name, but that dude,
Johnny
if
Most.
there was anyone, I'm sorry, go ahead, Aldo.
No, Johnny Most is his name.
If anyone was racist in Boston, I can't speak, or I know the thing they did to Bill Russell and stuff is supposed to be true, which is awful.
Yes.
But if anyone was racist, that fucking announcer, God, go back and listen to some of his calls against the Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
He's calling everybody on Detroit a thug. I know you don't like Detroit, but you know what thug's a fucking code word for.
That's right.
That's an N word that he can't say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he's doing. And I'm sure he was doing that against the Lakers too in like 84 when they were fighting. There were so many fights in 84 in those finals. So yeah, that dude was just over the top. He could never announce now.
No, absolutely not. But he does have some historic great calls. Havlicek stole the ball. Havlicek stole the ball.
Or when Isaiah throws it in and Bird steals it and throws it to Dennis Johnson.
Yes, that
what a
was
great moment for just NBA history there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm totally sensitive to what you and Tooch and Bob Ryan are saying. I used to feel the same way, but the more and more I learned about movie making, and the more and more I have an appreciation for. First and foremost, you have to make it interesting. They've paid millions and millions of dollars to produce this. And so are you going to adhere to the truth and make it less entertaining, or are you going to bend the facts a little bit, but still capture the essence of what went on so that you can create a compelling series? I'm with, go ahead. You're the movie makers. This is now your material. You bought it. And do whatever you want with it. And then if it's entertaining, I will continue to watch. And if it's not, then I won't. So I can delineate between those things.
I hear you. And I think everything you're saying is valid. And I get it. And like I said, I'm on board with everything. The only discrepancy is I just don't like the changing of the score or the way things went down. That's the only thing to me that I don't like about it. I mean, and again, if I were Jerry West and all that's a lie, I'd be upset. Same thing with Bird, like I said, coming out just spitting tobacco everywhere. And from everything I've ever read or heard about Bird was a good sport and was kind of gregarious and he would have shook hands, is what I'm saying.
I'm with you. I can't wait. The series has been picked up for a season 2. And so I'm on board. Thank you, Jordan. Nice compliment. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you tomorrow. I'll get to talk to Jordan Silveria tomorrow. I agree with you. The season 2 has been added. HBO is paying for that. I hope that they can figure out a way to stay closer to the truth, because Ross Reed, who does our new show here, the Mac and Reed show, whose opinion I really like a lot on a lot of his things with sports and politics and pop culture and so forth. He says he won't watch it. He won't watch it because after the first 2 episodes, he was like, Bob Ryan, I know this is bullshit, the way they're saying things about Jerry West and the way all this went down. I won't watch it. And I would love for Ross and other people who are basically boycotting the show because some of the chronology has been changed, some of the facts have been moved around and so forth. I would love for them to see this, because when I watch it, and I started off at the first episode or 2, I was like, I don't know, but I am falling in love with the show. I think it's very, very well made, and lots of great characters. The John C. Reilly character is Dr. Jerry Buss. His daughter, I forgot the actor's name who's playing his daughter, but on and on and on. It's just very well made. And frankly, I don't know much about Adam McKay, the guy who is the brainchild behind. Do any of you guys know what he's done in the past? Because he seems to be popular with a lot of people. You know?
He did Anchorman, I think, the Anchorman movies and Old School.
All right.
God, I think Will Ferrell
did the what is it? The Talladega Nights. I think it was him also.
Okay, so he made all these great comedies.
I think they all suck. I know I'm in the minority. I hate Will Ferrell's movies. I liked him on Saturday Night Live. I hate his movies.
I lean more towards Dan's opinion on Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell, I just don't find all that funny. I agree with you. On Saturday Night Live, he was great. That cheerleader bit that he did and playing
his
George Bush.
W.
Yes, playing Bush and stuff. Great stuff. But some of these, I haven't even watched Talladega Nights because some of the other movies that Will Ferrell has done, I just don't appreciate.
Everybody loves Step Brothers with John C. Reilly. I just thought it was dog shit.
Yeah. Cliff, I knew it. Immediately, Cliff Victoria says, "Hey, Talladega Nights is a fantastic movie. I'll have to give it a chance. I don't know."
You know what? I think I told you this via text. I know I'm bouncing around, but I got to go in a second.
That's okay.
The movie, the David Cronenberg movie that I watched, that racing film that he did. The Fast Company.
I've never seen.
Holy shit, that was horrible.
Really?
Like, I give it like 75 thumbs down. That movie was.
I never heard of it.
Disappointing. Like, if you want to waste 90 minutes of your life, please watch that movie because it's like watching Matt Nagy coach. You just can't get any worse.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, Cronenberg, one of my favorite filmmakers. But he made some movies that were really, really bad. But one of the things, even his bad movies, I found interesting. I'll take a peek at that one and see if it holds my interest after 15.
It's on
minutes.
Cinemax this month.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Did either of you see Existenz, the Cronenberg film with Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law?
Don't you love that, dude?
Yeah, that's great. That's his best one. In my opinion, that's his best one.
Yeah, Cronenberg is a massive.
It's so weird. It's just, it's like a nightmare.
I might have to go with The Fly as his
Fly.
Fly.
Yeah, The Fly is good too. Yeah,
The Fly. If that movie would have come out around 2000, they would have ruined it. Because what made it so great was the metamorphosis and the makeup and stuff, and his transition. Like, they would have CGI'd that and made it look like shit.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, it looks so great from when it was. Like, it's so great just looking at it, thinking, man, this is from '86.
Mm-hmm.
The makeup is just fucking on point. Like, you can't. They won an Academy Award for that, and they should have won like 4 for it. That's how great the makeup was.
Yeah, Existenz is 1999, and the practical effects in that today still look good.
Yeah. Ringers, Dead Ringers, with Jeremy Irons playing twin brothers who are gynecologists.
Well,
I have it because of you.
Yeah.
Well, one of them was, quote, slaving over the hot snatches, while the other twin brother was a business manager or whatever. I'll never forget that line.
Dan,
they're slaving over the hot snatches.
Dan, did you enjoy it when you saw it?
Yeah, I don't think you remember sending it to me, but you did. You bought it on Amazon, I think, and just sent it straight to me.
Yeah, I remember now. There's a lot of things that I don't remember, and
I feel like I'm talking to Jim McMahon now.
By the way, check this out. It's funny that you bring up Jim's name, because just 10 minutes ago, I went to check my Twitter account real quickly, and I sent Jim McMahon. We all know that Jim McMahon's son handles his Twitter account, right? So I sent him a note saying, please tell your dad that we really loved having him on, and we hope that he had a good time. And when his documentary, and thank you for facilitating the interview and making it happen. And when his documentary comes out, we would love to talk to him or the filmmaker about it. And so his son replied just now, like 15, 20 minutes ago, and he replied with a big heart. Not very talkative, but that's okay.
I can't get his son to reply to me at all. I was like, I thanked him for the interview as well.
And just like Eric Kramer, I offered him, I was like, if you want a bunch of your dad's games, I mean, I don't want money, I'll hook you up. And he doesn't respond. And he's followed everybody else but me.
Oh, no.
But no, it was still, as I look back on it, I think all jokes aside, it was a once in a lifetime kind of deal. And I'm so appreciative of the opportunity. I hated that I sounded sick, but I felt like I never established a rhythm with him. It was almost like Fields' unsteady action last season. But in hindsight, I guess I thought it was my responsibility to spark his memory.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so easy with Eric when Eric Kramer was on. Like, he could tell you who's in the fucking huddle with him, you know? So right. I expected Jim to be the same way. But you asked me before we turned the mic on, like, what if he doesn't remember some of these games? And I thought, I won't ask any obscure ones. He'll remember them. But I guess I have to be more fair to Jim because he's 62. And, you know, hell, I referenced a game from 83, which is almost 40 years ago. So I think I had unreasonable expectations of Jim.
It was great, man. I enjoyed the interview.
I'm glad you said that, Tooch. That's unsolicited, and I agree. And everybody that I've talked to has said the same thing. I have not heard one negative remark about, oh, wait a minute, here comes one now in the chat. No, I'm just kidding.
What did Mike North say? Did he hear it?
Mike, I don't know if he heard it, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Mike since he hooked us up with the interview. So I will reach out to him. I think in a couple of weeks after the draft, he's scheduled to come back on and share his thoughts on the Bears draft.
See if you can whore Tom Zach away from Mike North.
Well, I actually was looking through my Skype numbers, and I have Tom Zach's number. So maybe I should just call him on my own because it seems like Mike is cool with me doing that. So
I would love to talk to Tom Zach too.
All right.
And he likes my question when he was on Mike's show.
He's on my long list of people that we have identified as potential guests. So I will try to get Tom Zach right after the draft.
Cool, man. Hey, John, I want you to know I'm glad you're well, and I wish I didn't have to go, man. It feels like we just started, man. It's all right. I got to go to fucking work, though, man.
It goes by fast, doesn't it?
It does, man. We're having fun. I hope
2.5 hours already.
Good. Sounding is the way I feel our product is.
You're the best, Dan Aguirre. I really love
Danny.
you, and
Love
a
you
big
too.
hug. And the hugs are coming in the chat room too. So take care of yourself, drive safely, and go save some lives.
The last thing. Please, I want to talk to you on the air about it. Please watch French Connection too.
I will indeed. Trust me, I will, because in fact, what I want to do is watch the first one and the second one because it's been a while since I've watched the original French Connection.
Me too. I should do that too and rewatch part one.
Yeah, so let's do that. Hey,
I don't remember French Connection too. I know
John
I've seen it.
Frankenheimer did the second one.
That's right. You've told me that.
And William Friedkin did the first one, right?
Yeah, the first one was a masterpiece.
So
I thought the second one was better. It's a completely different film, but I thought it was better.
So, Tooch, we have a homework assignment. Watch French Connection 1 and 2, Friedkin and Borman. That's a great double bill.
And part 2 is on Stars this month if you all have the Stars package.
Yeah.
And which reminds me, before I go, next week on Sunday, the start of a new series, Nixon Era Watergate. You have Martha Mitchell, played by Julia Roberts, and Sean Penn is going to be playing Attorney General John Mitchell.
Wait a minute. Did you say Julia Roberts is playing Martha Mitchell?
Yes, and Sean Penn is playing the Attorney General.
I don't care about Sean Penn.
He's in a
Don't do that to Julia Roberts. She's still great looking. Don't make her look like Martha Mitchell.
No, Martha Mitchell, for like who she was a socialite, though. She was,
Okay.
She was fairly attractive. She's a little bit older than Julia, I think, but she's got a wild story where they fucking held her hostage and stuff, like while Watergate was first starting, and she had all these wild, like she would call the press up in the middle of the night. What's that one lady that was like 78, 80 years old that was still in the press corps, like during W. Bush's run?
Yeah, the Lebanese woman, Helen Thomas.
Yeah. So she's calling like Helen Thomas up in the middle of the night, telling her all these wild stories and shit. It's going to be a fascinating show, I think.
And what network is that on?
It's on Stars.
Okay.
I think it's called Gaslight.
All right. Oh, I got to watch
that.
But
it starts on Sunday. Again, it's got Sean Penn and Julia Robertson. If you like Nixon and Watergate and things like that, and I love that era of history, it's a slam dunk for me, man.
Yep. Jeremy says Julia Roberts is like 60. I don't
think
care.
so.
I'm like 60.
She's not that old, though, is she? I'm going to be 54. I don't think she's like...
I appreciate you both, and I'm sorry I have to interrupt. I got to go, though.
No
All
problem.
right, Danny.
Take care, bro.
You all be well. Thank you.
All right, brother. There you go. That is Dan Aguirre out to save some lives at his other job, 911. I want to see that. This Martha Mitchell, Sean Penn. That's got to be weird. Sean Penn is John Mitchell. Jeez. All right, Dan. Excuse me. The second time I've called you Dan tonight. I apologize.
Julia Roberts is 54. That's my age, according to. I thought she was about my age.
All right. Well, and I think she was on one of the talk shows recently promoting this film, and she still looks super, 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 super. So, whatever she's in, I will definitely take a look at. All right, Tucci, have you seen anything while you were convalescing from your illness? Share, please.
I have. I don't know if you like Guy Ritchie. Do you know who Guy Ritchie is?
Absolutely. He made one of
I
my
saw his latest film.
Snatch.
Yeah, Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Another good one.
Used to be partially famous for being married to Madonna for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
But saw his latest one. It's called Wrath of Man. It was really good, man. I'll tell you. It's like, if you like movies like The Departed, it's another crime caper. It's kind of told through the eyes of like three different points of view. Kind of, there's two crime gangs who kind of hold up armored trucks. They don't work with each other. They're kind of like competing in this, robbing of armored trucks. But, Jason Statham, it's got a great cast. Jason Statham, Andy Garcia, Holt McElhaney, and Clint Eastwood's kid, Scott Eastwood. It looks just like him, a young Clint Eastwood, and a few other actors that are, kind of show up from time to time in Guy Ritchie's movies. But it's told, and the third point of view is the armored car guards and their kind of company that they work in. You kind of see, and the story kind of unfolds in different, where you revealed more and more is revealed of what's going on with the storyline. So it's kind of like, in that vein of Departed. Very well told, great story. Love the suspense and the action. Jason Statham is the star, of course, but he's not doing any of the martial arts. He's just a crime, but one of the leaders of one of the crime rings.
Good actor, man.
Yeah, a leader of the other gang is Martin Donovan, who's an actor. He looks like John Larroquette a little bit. If you know, he's like the modern day John Larroquette.
What's his last name?
Martin Donovan. I'm sure you've seen him before. Kind of looks like Guy Pearce, John Larroquette looking guy.
Oh,
I'm sure you've seen him.
Yeah.
You know who he is. He's the leader of the other. It's a bunch of like Iraq or Afghan war veterans that come back from the war, and they can't get jobs and stuff, so they start using their military skills to hold up armored trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of cross paths with Jason Statham's gang, much the same way you see in like Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio crossing paths in The Departed. So I really enjoyed it, man. I think it holds up. And I saw Old Henry finally. Who's the guy that's been recommending Old Henry?
I saw it.
It was great.
I love it.
Yeah, it was awesome, dude.
My God. I was shocked and surprised.
Is it Stephen Me? Or it was Stephen Me, I think that was Old Henry,
Stephen,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
I think it was Stephen, yes.
So that was also really good, man.
Yeah. What's the name of that actor? The lead actor? He was on Old Country, not Old Country, Old Brother.
Jim Blake Nelson.
Yes. Jim Blake Nelson is outstanding in that fucking movie. Oh my God.
Excellent.
I highly endorse that movie. I'm glad you brought that up, Tooch, because I saw it maybe a month ago and I've forgotten to mention it here. I highly endorse that movie. It's a little slow moving, but stick with it because
Oh yeah,
Stephen.
The ending's killer.
5 years ago,
it was great, man. I really enjoyed Old Henry. My wife loves Western. She really enjoyed this one too.
Yeah,
It's
I
great.
wish my wife was like yours because she wouldn't watch it. I don't want to watch that. I'm going to go upstairs and watch Dateline. So, okay, another plot to kill somebody that you're probably going to use me someday. I love my wife.
Yeah.
But she watches way too much Dateline.
And then I started a new series too. It's called Outer Range on Amazon Prime with Josh Brolin. Is that his name? Josh Brolin, man.
Yeah.
It's great. It's like about it's a Wyoming rancher who finds this like mysterious hole on his property. I don't know where it leads.
I saw the previews. It looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, man. It's really good. It's got some great cast too. It's got Lily Taylor's from Chicago. She was one of those Steppenwolf actresses. And Will Patton, who's in like 10 movies. They're like competing ranchers. They own ranches next to each other. They're fighting over this land. And Will Patton says, well, the assessor made 100 years ago, the assessor made a mistake, and I actually own like an extra mile of your property. You need to move your fence. And this is where the hole is. So Josh Brolin, sorry, I keep calling him by his dad's name. Josh Brolin says, he's like, he doesn't want to give up the land because his fucking hole is there. It doesn't know where it goes. I don't want to like give too much away and stuff, but it's kind of like got that Lost vibe, the TV show Lost.
Yeah.
Mysterious stuff, but
cool.
Yeah, I'm enjoying. There's only 2 episodes out so far, and of course they're making us wait every week.
Yeah,
it sucks kind of because I kind of want to binge this one, but and then been watching Moon Knight on.
Everybody seems to love that.
It's really good, but the one of the split personality of Moon Knight, I hate one of them. It's just like he's just so fucking annoying.
Well, that makes it good then.
I enjoyed it. Stuff. Oscar Isaac is really good.
I remember when I first watched Do the Right Thing, the Spike Lee movie. I walked out of that theater. I was so fucking pissed off that the Spike Lee character destroyed the place where he worked, and then has to call to ask for his pay when he's sitting with the owner of that. Hey, you still owe me, despite the fact that I burned your place of business down. And I was just upset. I was so angry, and I kept thinking about it day after day, and I said, you know what? That's what makes it a fucking great movie. Is I'm still thinking about it.
Which one was it?
Do the Right Thing, the Spike Lee.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And the late Danny Aiello.
That's right.
Yeah,
he is
great actor.
right. Yeah, Danny Aiello was the pizzeria. My pizzeria.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that scene where the guy who ended up playing, who was in Breaking Bad, Giancarlo Esposito. He would go into the pizzeria every day, and he would just get off that there were all these Italians up on the wall, and despite the fact that the pizzeria was in an all African American neighborhood, he says, "How come there are no black brothers up on the wall?" And that's just and stuff. It's a great movie, and part of it is that some of us will get pissed off at Spike Lee's reaction. Yeah, what about my pay? And but that is part of why the movie is so fucking good. Stephen Nagishi has a recommendation. He highly recommends Tokyo Vice on HBO Max if you're already watching Winter Season. It's based on a real story of Tokyo Yakuza Underground and the American investigative reporter. Stephen, I am definitely going to watch.
Yeah, that's in my queue, man. I'm waiting to watch that one as soon as my wife and I get some time. I've been so busy with handicapping games because I have clients that subscribe to my picks. I have to tell you a story too. It's like I had last weekend was like, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of last week. I went like 25, 8, and 2. Just like I couldn't lose. I had one day where I was like 10 and 1. It was just like a huge profit day. And one of my subscribers, like his subscription was up. So I said, "Hey man, do you want to renew?" He's like, "I don't know, man. I lost money. I gotta wait till I was like, "How did you fucking lose?" I was 10 and 1 today.
Yeah.
You should be out minimum 8 units.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? So some of these guys like take every single one of my picks and parlay them like I'm supposed to go 11 and 0. Like I know the outcome of the games before they happen. If I fucking knew the outcome of the games, I'd be retired. living on the beach somewhere.
It's gambling.
I know, right? It's like I message you back. I'm like, you're not parlaying all my picks, are you? Yeah. Fuck. Don't do that. Do not do that. I'm like, the best way to profit long term is a straight wager.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do, I told him I don't do like more than 2-leg parlays unless it's like college basketball, where then I'll play like a lottery ticket and shit. But those things never hit. I see some of these guys on Twitter with like 32-leg parlays, and I want to like reply on Twitter and say that will never fucking hit. You're throwing $25 away. Stop it.
Tooch, I have learned that the hard way, because when I've never been a hardcore gambler. I would only gamble when I would go to Vegas and hang out at the sports book or the strip bar. And so I would when I started when I loaded the app to start gambling, now that it's legal in Illinois, I put $200 in, and I got all the way up to like $1,200, and it was because I was getting lucky on parlays. So I just continued to do that. I am down to $5 fucking.
I know, it's like I know. Since I learned, and a lot of it's Anthony, my partner that I do the podcast with, and he's like been like, dude, don't do that shit. That you're just play your card every day, and you're going to come out on top. Once in a while when you have like 2 games that you really like and they're just like heavy favorites, then you do those 2 to get it to around -110, -120, something like that, +100. And then you can play it, as a normal, bet. Of course you have to win both games, but you can still profit, with the 2-leg or teasers or anything like that. Now, round robin is another format that some books let you do. And I said, if you round robin my card, man, you were so far ahead, man. Play every combination. Even if you put a 50-cent bet in my 11 picks round robin, 50 cents, you probably made like $200, $300 on just that playing that card. All possible combinations, 50 cents. It might have been like, I don't know, a $30 or $40 bet to win like, 200 or 300 in a 10-1 card. That would have been great. But, I was just like, how the hell, Anthony was like, I get that all the time from subscribers. They're just parlaying all my picks. That'll never hit because it's so rare that someone goes 10-0 on one day. So, but
Well, I'll tell you, you are really good at what you do. Let people know where they can catch your bets and so forth. And you and I are actually, after this show is over, you and I are going to talk about some of the business about maybe bringing that show over to the Barroom Network. So
I would love to help Barflies, become smarter. And Anthony and I both, we just want to help people win. You know, and you can win if you're smart. You manage your bankroll. You don't play dumb plays. You get a good number from the books. You can still win if you get a bad number, but live betting too. Anthony is really good at live betting. And Anthony's been doing it for so long. I'm just a podcaster. I've been doing handicapping because the office that retweets all of us, well, you can't just be a podcaster and do this stuff. Nobody's gonna watch the podcast unless you're actually making picks and handicapping games and stuff. So that's why I had to learn how to do it and stuff. I was just kind of dabbling, last year when, talking about the stuff. And once it became legal, sports gambling, like in most of the country, like it has, and this people on their cell phones with DraftKings and FanDuel, it became super popular. I wanted to kind of talk to people about how to be successful at it for the most part, at least win, on a consistent basis, and the guy actually who runs the office that, does our retreat, he was the former president of Pinnacle, which is, the ones who started frickin' sports books, and, he's retired now, but he does, he has a marketing team that helps handicappers retweets and stuff. It's one of his side businesses. So Anthony talked me into doing it. And I started with 600 followers. I'm almost to 5,000 just by giving out a free play every day, and then, I have people message me on Twitter all the time. Hey, what do you like tonight? I'll tell them what I like tonight. And I say, but you got to sign up for VIP soon, because if I'm not always giving away free picks, because it takes a long time, Aldo, to handicap games. And right now there's three sports are hot and heavy right now: baseball, NBA, NHL. And it's like to go through those games and pick out, anywhere from 5 to 10 games and that I want to give out that I feel pretty good about. I during that stretch, I was like 12-0 in NHL. Just like red hot hockey picks. And then at that point you're getting tons of followers, and tons of retweets for the free pick. Tonight my free pick lost by 0.5 point. It was the Phoenix Suns first half. I don't know if New Orleans, the Pelicans got like a half or a late bucket to kill my spread. But my top pick tonight was Miami -7. They won by 10. That was Miami's defense. The Heat are really good. Of course, former Bull Jimmy Butler is a big part of that. They got some good players on there, and I like Memphis to bounce back tonight against the Timberwolves. They beat them by 28 points tonight, and the only one I missed was Phoenix, the one that I gave out as a free play. But tomorrow, I'll be looking at games a little bit harder.
Oh, I know you will. And just based on what you saw out of game one, Bulls and Bucks, you got a feeling one way or another that the Bulls maybe going to steal the game tomorrow?
Man, I don't know. The Bucks are so deep, man. Their bench, like I said, Giannis is probably, to me, he's the best player in the NBA right now. I don't know if it's hard to beat Giannis, man. He's a different kind of animal, man. He's so good.
He's the best player in the league.
Yeah, he's huge, and there's nobody that can guard him. The Bulls just don't have defense, but I mean, they do play the Bucks.
Oh no, their defense in game one was surprisingly pretty good.
Surprisingly good. That was that's been true. I think usually when Bulls and Bucks play either in the playoffs or their first game of the season, they play each other, that games go under because they both play tough defense against each other. And that's exactly what happened. I forgot who broke it down. That was one pick I gave out during my stretch, was the under in the Bulls and Bucks, under 228 or 223. I can't remember what it was. That was one pick I gave out. And then, I had my little bit of bout of illness. I was on vacation for a week. So when I was on vacation, I took a break from, just to get away from everything. It's
good. I'm glad you did.
It's stressful,
Oh my gosh.
Like Mike North used to tell that story when he was first started with the bar room, where he was picking NFL games. He said he was curled up in the fetal position. That's how I felt during the. But I mean, I got one of the best compliments. Anthony said, "Man, you are doing so good." It's like he was like, "I'm so proud of you," So, but Anthony's a guy that's what he does for a full-time job. Is he handicaps games? He's got subscribers. He's got an actual website with cart checkout and everything like that, which I would like to have maybe next year before football season starts. I'll have a website set up with cart checkout and stuff. But I got a question already, man. Look at that, Aldo. So this is what I was hoping, if I could bring the show to the bar room and get questions like this during.
I love it.
I've got real Sean Higgs, man, that does a show with Anthony and I every Thursday. That's another guy who's, a guy who does it for a living. He's on Wager Talk. He's on Picks and Parlays, on Pickswise. Shows up all over the place. And he does a show with Anthony and I every Thursday, talking baseball, just wagering on baseball for the week, what teams we think are surprising, what teams are we going to fade. Manchester City Manchester City is the best team in the world, in my opinion. For me, it's probably Manchester City or draw if I'm going on the a double chance bet. But I wouldn't bet against Manchester City. That's just before I thought Bayern Munich was the best soccer team in the world, but Bayern Munich has really faded this past month or so. But Man City has been playing pretty good for champions. He's talking Champions League, where all the European teams play against each other. It's hard. I don't like to bet on those games because, sometimes those games, they don't play all their guys, So
why don't they? Why will they rest?
Like when they're 2-game series to get to there's a 2-game series. So if they've won game 1 and they're playing game 2, all they have to do is draw to get their place in the next round. You
Okay.
know, so
Gotcha.
but I soccer, it can be tricky because I remember like Anthony and I had one team where it's like, oh, this is a lock, and they got a red card in the first like 20, 30 minutes of the match. It's like
Mhm.
our team was going 10 on 11 because, like I said, the red card, you lose your guy for the whole game. So
Mhm.
it's like we live bet the other team and at plus 770 to at least get a profit and our money back. So, yeah.
Steven knows a lot about soccer.
Yeah.
In fact, his next guest on his show, the Double A team, is going to be, and I'm forgetting the gentleman's name. Steven, if you can put it up on in the chat. But if you're a soccer fan or if you just love good talk, you should definitely check out the Double A team. Their next broadcast is coming up the first Monday in May. And if you missed the last Double A, which was this past Monday, you missed a really good one. Steven interviewed Austin Gale from Pro Football Focus, and Austin had a lot of interesting takes on what is happening with the Chicago Bears and just overall with the draft. And Eric Winalda is the gentleman's name who's going to be with Steven and Ken Fang a week from Monday. They'll be talking soccer and a bunch of other things, but Eric Winalda is a former broadcaster about soccer. He's worked in the soccer industry for a very long time. He is a huge get for those guys. And so check out the Double A team Monday. That would be May 2 at 7 p.m. Central, right before South Burbs Hitman. Let's see. Anything else we want to discuss before we head out of here?
Let's see. Trying to think here. What's going on? No, I think we covered all. But we got the NFL draft coming up. I'll have to. What was it? Last couple years. NFL draft is like the hardest week of Barroom.
Oh my goodness! Yes,
it's like you guys, the Barflies, you have to realize how hard the people who do Barroom Network work during NFL draft week. It's unbelievable. They're working 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
Easy.
But it's fun stuff. And, what the thing that keeps us going is
smoke weed every day.
Well, of course. I had to get that and that's it. I think we're going to pull the plug on this one. Jordan, call me crazy, but okay, wait a minute. Aldo, call me crazy, but I sent you 40 tweet mega thread on the prospect. I love the debate Greg Gabriel on. All right, Jordan, I will not call you crazy, but I will definitely take a look at that, and we'll see what can hook you up with Greg, because Jordan has become a great participant in our bar room. And in fact, he's going to be one of the people who is not only going to be on tomorrow's show to share his mock draft, but Jordan is also going to be on the Barfly Tailgate show this Sunday morning. Cool. They're going to present mock drafts and talk.
I've been watching Barfly Tailgate. I'll drop in there once in a while and get scolded by Aaron a little bit when I talk about the Wildcats. But I was like, well, I know Ryan stepped away from the bar room. I haven't seen Bobby in a long time though. Is he also step away from barroom for a little bit, or is he deployed?
Bobby is still, Bobby is doing some secret mission work. I better not talk about it because I don't want my phone bugged or this show bugged and stuff. But Bobby, who has been serving now, I think over 20 years with the military, is doing some special work right now. So his time is limited. But I do believe he will be on this Sunday's show to present his mock draft. And we're looking forward to another season.
I wanted to do a mock draft, but I just can't because I have not done any mock drafts of my own. I haven't followed. I mean, other than what college football I've watched, and handicapping and stuff, but I have no idea like where players are going this year. I know a few. I could probably think of where they would go. Ryan Poles might actually. There is a list of who the Bears have visited the Bears this year. I don't know if you saw any of that.
Usually walterfootball.com has that, but I take that with a grain of salt. They clearly they have some interest in the player because the player is making a visit, but at the same time, over the years I've followed those lists, and it's like maybe 1% of the time where that player is actually picked by the Chicago Bears. The draft,
pre-draft visits and stuff.
Yeah, the draft, it's so darn unpredictable. To know what they're thinking about in Halissaw. I think sometimes they offer a visit.
Smoke screen.
Exactly. That's a better word than I was going to use.
Do you know who Ryan Willis is?
Ryan Willis sounds like an old quarterback that Dan McGuire would know really.
He's
well.
on the Bears.
Tom Willis. That's what I was like.
Yeah, he's a quarterback on the Bears roster.
Oh, that's right. He was.
I never heard of him before, but
he was a recent signing. Yeah, that's a camp arm. You know that,
right?
So I don't expect to see him on Sundays.
He doesn't even have a picture in the little. It's just a gray silhouette.
Yeah,
like Fields, Foles, and Simeon all have pictures. But
that's funny.
That's how you know he's a camp arm.
That is funny. By the way, you mentioned Nick Foles. Don't be surprised if he is dealt on the Saturday's draft, day 3 of the draft. There's a possibility that in order to get some more draft picks later in the draft, that the Bears might do one of those trades where they trade their 5th for somebody's 4th, and Foles is included in that deal. That's a very real possibility, because by that time, all the top quarterbacks that you expect will make a team are gone, and so there will be a team who will say, we could use a guy like Nick Foles. Let's see if we can get him for exchange
a six round pick for Foles.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we didn't get anybody. We're not going to probably get anybody with the 6th round pick. How about giving us Nick Foles, and here's your 6th round pick. Go nuts. Right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you, Stephen, for that recommendation on Jacob. Yeah. By the way, Stephen Nagishi is he writes, I highly recommend Jacob Infante for all the Bears draft insight. Really great guy.
Yeah.
He and Greg Gabriel have been going at it on Twitter. And Greg says, you want to invite Jacob over? And I go, let's do it after the draft. So we might have a debate between those two guys on the future Gabriel Talks Football show,
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Absolutely. Because I can't debate with Greg. Greg says something and I just take it as gospel, or I take it as, all right, this is some insight I may not agree with, but it's coming from a source that you respect highly. But
I love the insight. Was it yesterday you had Greg on?
Yes.
He was like talking. I was like, well, most teams are bored. It's already done, and stuff like that. I love that kind of insight of the draft room. Yeah, I listened to that just recently.
Yep. The days that Gabriel Talks Football fluctuate, it kind of depends on. Greg will tell me, I want to talk this day because there was going to be some information available, blah, blah, blah. But generally we're on Mondays, and when the season starts, we will be on regularly a Monday and to talk about the Bears game. But throughout the off season, we will have shows where Greg will share his insight as to what might be going on over at Halissaw. All right, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us live tomorrow on Wednesday. We've got a full plate of shows, including our special mock draft show that I mentioned earlier with some of the Barflies. Some of the people who visit us are going to be sharing their mock drafts. We'll either be talking live to them or just sharing them via our webcast somehow, some way. And what else we got? 2:00, it's Bar Down. And at 9 p.m., it's Science Fiction. The guys had to cancel their show last week, but they will be back tomorrow at 9:00 with no technical difficulties. And they'll be talking about the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Tooch, have you seen it?
No, I have not.
I can tell you that those guys loved it.
Wow.
They thought it was very, very good. So a good family movie to take the kids to. Did you see the first one, Sonic Hedgehog #1?
No, I have, but my daughters have been like, what is a Sonic? They've seen it and they want to watch it, so maybe I will watch it with the girls.
It sounds like a great movie to take the family out.
I haven't seen The Batman either, and I know that just came out for free on HBO Max. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yesterday it dropped yesterday for free. Robert Pattinson and gosh, what's that gal's name? Zoe Kravitz.
Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah. So that one's just dropped yesterday. But I mean, is it kind of a bad sign that that they put it out there for free? It might not be that good, you know.
Well, it's not really free at HBO Max.
Well,
you pay money for that, but
free for subscribers.
What it does tell me is that the days of cinema are starting to die off.
Yep,
you know, there's going to be
we could talk about that for hours.
Yes, and Steven Spielberg said the cinema will always exist, but it will be like a $50, $60 experience. Yeah, and Steven, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, maybe next week.
Right. Frankly, it just snuck up on me. It's like, whoa, USFL started all these games in Birmingham. So let's definitely talk about that next week.
They got some crazy ass rules.
I know.
Not only that, but the New Orleans Breakers, the team that's got Mitch's college coach as the head coach.
How about
they supposedly have a wide open offense and stuff. The offensive coordinator, Larry Fedora, the coach who coached Mitch Trubisky in college, is the head coach of that one. There's I think Wade Phillips is coach of one of the teams.
That's right.
They got some NFL coaches coaching in the USFL and stuff. I didn't get a chance to watch any of the games, and Anthony and I were talking about, should we handicap some of these games? Like, no,
I was going to say, why not?
I know. I don't know. We don't know. With not enough data, I guess.
Yeah,
it's like
that makes it very, very difficult. But maybe after a week or two, you can start.
I'm sure. Yep, for sure.
I'm definitely going to watch some of the action this upcoming weekend because I love football. Now, it is strange that they're starting it 2 weeks before the draft because most football fans are paying attention to the draft right now.
Yeah.
So I would have expected them to start after the draft, but the week one ratings were pretty darn good. I mean, they got like about $2.5 million on one of the stations, and then another 2.5 million people on one of the stations, and about 2 million on the other stations, because I think they're broadcast on two networks right now. So the ratings were pretty good. Football is football, man, and it's king. It's better. It's a better viewing experience than baseball. Sorry. By the way, did you see what happened in one of the minor leagues has attached a 20-second clock behind the catcher, and the pitcher has to throw the ball within those 20 seconds. It's a pitch clock now.
Wow, like a shot clock.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's cool. That would speed up the games, man.
20 minutes were reduced from the average minor league game, and that to me is good news.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that we've come down to this, but we've got to do something about this fucking problem where people are scratching their balls, picking their boogers, they throw a pitch, and then they circle the mound and takes way too much time. I'm sorry. In today's attention deficit times, we've got to speed up the game of baseball. Yeah. It'll make it much more interesting for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other fans. So
they started leaning that way with if it were doubleheader, they're only 7-inning games.
Mm-hmm.
For double headers. So they start leaning to try and cut the time down, because 2.5, 3 hours for a baseball game, it's like, you're asking people who are working in a busy day, they got other stuff going on to invest that much time in watching a game. I can't imagine their viewership is up.
Exactly.
It's got to be down.
Exactly. And young people are the key to the future of baseball. And so how are you going to attract young people who, Cliff Victoria says, who has 4 hours to watch a game? Absolutely.
Right.
Young people,
it's different.
Young people are watching esports rather than baseball, and that's not good. When you would rather watch a simulated computer game of baseball other than the real game, your sport is in trouble. And so they need to fix that. And maybe this pitch clock thing is one of the things that we'll be seeing.
For football, it's only 1 day a week, where you're investing 4 hours. It's a Sunday when everyone's off of work.
Exactly. It's
so it hasn't been a problem for the NFL.
Right.
But baseball, it's like you're already struggling. They're changing the rules. There's 162 games. Whatnot. The only reason baseball has has maintained any semblance of popularity has been mobile sports wagering. For people,
Very true.
People like me and my mom or grandma, or people are wagering on games.
In-game betting, yeah.
In-game, live game betting,
right?
That's prop betting. How many total bases or hits or home runs,
right?
So,
and the networks are starting to embrace that more and more because they know, that's a way to.
It was on life support until mobile sports gambling, legalization of gambling.
Totally.
You wonder if there was any kind of like Major League Baseball commissioner and board meetings with the sports books. Let's get this launched in state legislatures. Baseball's on life support. Like we gotta legalize sports wagering. You wonder what went on in the background.
Exactly. Boy, I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of those meetings. All right, everybody. Again, thank you very much for watching. All of you who were here live, and those of you listening on demand. Nomad says, I got to go before my girlfriend dumps me. I hear you, brother. Hope to see you tomorrow, Nomad. Get your picks into me. Aldo at bearsbarroom.com is the email. Send me your picks. We'll talk about them here on the show, or if you can appear with us, that would be fantastic. That's it for tonight's show. Thank you, John Santucci. I love saying your name. It is poetry. And Dan Aguirre, not exactly a poetic name, but definitely a poetic voice.
He didn't tell Jim McMahon his stage name.
I know.
I was like waiting for that. I was like, I was such a big fan. I used Dan McMahon for that would have been touching.
That's how he should have started.
He didn't want to do it though. Yeah, he should have started, but
in any case, he did a great job anyway.
Yeah.
And
I loved it. I was entertained the whole time.
Right. My name is Aldo Gandia. Jordan, thank you, and thank you the entire Barroom Network for doing such a great job and making us one of the places where people can go for entertainment, sports news, movie news, and so forth. We'll see you next week right here on Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. And if you are a lover of the draft, we got a lot of great stuff coming up. So stick with us. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.